Entering the Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience. Welcome to another edition of the Dog or Pass podcast, presented to you by Jägermeister. Give your beer a real shot this summer with an ice cold shot of Jägermeister. UFC 226 TUF 27 finale all goes down this weekend in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's International Fight Week. Cody Saftic here, a beardless Cody Saftic here with me in studio. I have a greasy theory, just before we even get anything started, that you got rid of the beard so you could give your beer a real shot this summer with an ice cold shot of Jägermeister. Does it make it? Was your beard just collecting too much beer and Jägermeister? Is that why you got rid of it?
For any Canadians who watch the show, particularly if they're in the Southern Ontario region, it is so hot outside, man. It is ridiculously hot outside. I know a lot of people are saying, why are you guys not in Vegas for International Fight Week? Pretty much like Las Vegas desert weather outside right now. Mm-hmm. And the two bad choices I made was growing a beard during the summer and having milk on a hot summer day. So
milk was a bad choice.
It was a terrible choice, as was growing out a beard. I was actually worried that when I shaved it, I'd have like one of those stupid, bad like tan lines. It's super pale underneath.
It doesn't look that bad. For those who are just listening on the podcast feed, you know.
Turns out two things. Thing number one, doesn't look bad. There's no tan lines. Thing number two, man, I got fat. What the fuck happened? so sweating it out and gonna get back on that. And yeah, looking forward to breaking down not only the best card of the year, but lots of fights this weekend. People are saying, hey, doubleheader UFC. We've also got PFL on Thursday, which I'm all in on.
There's a ONE FC card as well this weekend.
Yeah, so lots of fights, but obviously these are the main ones that we're talking about. And listen, Paul, this is not only is it the best card of the year, you could probably take away the main card and this would also be one of the better cards of the year. Like, this is legit. I'm looking forward to getting it.
And the good thing about, like, the interesting, I was talking to Chad, our producer.
Chad Doe.
Yep. Yeah, I was talking to him before this about, like, how it's like with Ronda gone and McGregor, like, things are up in the air. Yeah. I think he's going to come back, but, like, it's still up in the air. This card doesn't have, like, the quote-unquote big stars. The people that like jump off the page, like, oh, John Jones is obviously suspended. They're missing a lot of them, but you can see that they're trying to build the new ones on this card with Stipe and Holloway and Ortega and Francis Ngannou and Gokhan Saki and Paulo Costa. It's like the card is stacked with guys that they're just like, we don't have these stars anymore, but maybe this could be like the turnaround point for them. Let's just hope that all of these fights hold up by the time that we get to the event.
Well, see, there's the other thing. This is like such a great card, and no one was really talking about it because everybody knows the curse does exist. Please, Lord, please allow this card to stay together. And at this point, as long as the main card stays together, great. If it was to lose a great fight in the undercard, I don't know if they would draw something from the TUF finale. Probably not, so close to weigh-ins. But all the same, you're just going to get a great weekend of fights. But if you, nowadays, if you do buy these pay-per-views, when you get your bill and you see the $65 and you see the $70 on your bill, you're like, oh my God, was that really worth it? This, you can at least justify, yeah, I would pay for these fights.
So let's get right into the action here in the main event. We have Stipe Miocic taking on Daniel Cormier. Miocic is 8,900 on DraftKings. Cormier is 7,300. Minus 225 on the betting line. Miocic plus 205. Cormier, heavyweight champion versus light heavyweight champion of the world. Who you got?
I feel like a flip-flopping bitch on this one because I was all in on Stipe. Maybe part of me still believes Stipe is the right call. And I don't think you can go wrong here, but god damn is that value there on Daniel Cormier. And that's extremely tempting. First of all, Croatia, and gotta go with my boy Stipe. Also, Croatia, gonna win the World Cup. I like Stipe, and I think that him being the heavyweight champ, this should be easy. Always taking on a guy smaller man. You can go over the 8-inch reach advantage. You can go over the height advantage. You can go over all these different things. The fact that he does know how to wrestle. I like Stipe, but again, now that I'm thinking about it, now that you watch all this tape study on it, DC finds ways to win in the dirty areas, and maybe that's the way to beat Stipe. You look at Stipe's recent run of success here. He's either knocking these guys out in the first round. You look at JDS fight, you look at the Overeem fight, you look at the Andrei Arlovsky fight, you look at him winning the title versus Fabricio Verdum. These are all first round knockouts. He takes these guys out pretty quickly. The fight that goes beyond that, the Francis Ngannou fight, it's a one-sided beatdown, essentially. I mean, Stipe Miocic is in the driver's seat for that entire fight. and yet he does fatigue noticeably. And so when you go back, look at his body of work, he's either knocking these guys out pretty quickly, either in the first round, potentially in the second round, but either knocks these guys out quick or it's forced to go longer. And the fights that go beyond him just knocking out his opponent, he needs to rely on his wrestling. The Mark Hunt fight goes deeper. The Francis Ngannou fight goes deeper. These are fights that he needs to use his wrestling at because he's not just knocking him out in the first round. So when you look at that exact same model against a guy like Daniel Cormier, well, knocking him out in the first round, I really don't see it. I know he's fighting the bigger man, something he's already done before, but despite him being dropped in a couple fights, his chin's not gone. He's not considered chinny by my standards just yet. I don't think he gets knocked out in the first round. If he doesn't get knocked out in the first round, does Stipe go back to his wrestling and try to slow this fight down? I'm not so sure about that. Cormier knows he's a smaller guy. He's going to press Stipe up against the cage. He's going to close that distance. He's going to try to wrestle him. Not likely going to take him down initially, but just wear on this guy and tire him out. The size advantage to me is really only in the height and reach. It's not physically in the weight because Daniel Cormier, who cuts to 205, walks around at 225 and he's cutting maybe 20 pounds to make 205, whereas Stipe walks around at, what, 240? He's not cutting a single pound of weight. There's maybe only like 15 pounds advantage there for Stipe. So if it's going to be in the clinch a lot of the time and it's going to be a lot of dirty boxing, I kind of favoring Daniel Cormier. When I look at the odds, plus 205 for DC, like he's one of the greatest mixed martial artists that's ever competed. His lone loss is to the greatest of all time who was juiced up on the GAC. I can't discredit him, and for the odds, geez, I'm thinking he's got a shot, and I might be willing to play it.
I'm on the other side completely.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. But
I think from what we've learned
from
Stipe,
like
super athletic. He's your new era of heavyweights. You look at Cormier and the guys when he. A lot of people have been saying all week, "Oh, Daniel Cormier never lost at heavyweight," but it's like
a long time ago. Different level of opponents.
Different level, different breed of opponent completely. If you're completely being honest. Look, he's beating guys like Mir and Roy Nelson and Antonio Bigfoot Silva. Antonio Bigfoot Silva was in the prime of his career then. All of these guys were super slow. I think Stipe probably has a bit of a speed advantage in this fight. Strength, Daniel Cormier is a little bull. A
speed advantage over those heavyweights that he's fought.
That's what he used to have.
But do you think he has a speed advantage over Daniel Cormier one-on-one straight up?
Yes.
I don't know about that.
I do. And he has the ability to generate power off of his back foot. We saw it in the Fabricio Verdum fight. He can be running backwards, still hit you on the head or hit you on the chin and cause you to be knocked out. Daniel Cormier, I think he's just taking a lot of damage. You look at the Gustafsson fight. We look at that last getting knocked out by John Jones the second time around. Like, this guy's been through some wars. He's one hell of a fighter, and he belongs in the top 10 greatest fighters probably of all time in the sport. If there wasn't a guy named John Jones on this planet, this guy would be like probably indisputable as one of the top guys to ever compete in this sport. But I think the size will matter. 8-inch reach advantage for Stipe, plus his ability to punch off of his back foot. And if you think Stipe is going to get worn down, Stipe doesn't really get all that tired.
I don't know, man. The last fight with Ngannou, it was him
trying to muscle
on
around a complete muscle hound.
Yeah, but he was having his way with him. There was very little resistance. He was getting the takedowns and he was holding him down.
He still was able to do it in rounds 4 and 5.
So what gassed him out? Why was he so tired?
Because he's trying to hold down an absolute mutant.
You know the difference for me is when you talk about the Gustafsson fight and you talk about the John Jones fight. The second John Jones fight is obviously a difference for me. But when I look at Daniel Cormier, if these fights start to get to later rounds, maybe like the first Anthony Johnson fight, or say his fight with Alexander Gustafsson, it's like those are gut check fights where it's like, oh man, the Johnson fight, he gets hurt, but he comes back, he rallies back, he fights through it. The fight with Alexander Gustafsson, that's a 5-round war. That's a 5-round war where at any minute it could go, one thing could land, it could teeter to the other side. It's a battle of wits, and I think he wins this fight. It's a split decision, sure, but Daniel Cormier shows something there. He showed something in those fights that had to go 5 rounds, that he had to dig deep, that we just really haven't seen from Stipe. And here's the thing with Stipe, man, and I love him. Like I said, this is a guy I've been following him for a very long time. Met Stipe 8 years ago, like a long time ago. Croatian, one of the very few guys, like it was him and Crow Cop and Goran Relic that are Igor Prokrides, but he never really had no momentum going. I'm a Stipe guy, but you can't deny, dude, that literally like a couple months ago we're sitting here, and you yourself included, and everybody else is saying how Francis
because
Ngannou
I'm the biggest Ngannou nut hugger like on the internet.
I bet you there's some big nuts to hug too.
We're gonna get to Ngannou and how I can't help myself.
No, fair. But all I'm saying is that there was a lot of experts, there was a lot of analysts, there was all the guys that are professionals in the sport that were all picking Francis Ngannou. Oh, Stipe's not going to win this. Stipe was a near even money fight against Alistair Overeem. And he was the champ against Alistair Overeem. Yeah. He's near even. He was the dog against Ngannou as the champ. He was a 2-1 underdog against Fabricio Verdum when he won the title. And even way back when, like he fought Roy Nelson in Canada, he was a 3-1 underdog against Roy fucking Nelson. All I'm saying is Stipe's a guy.
And he rolled in all of those fights. So now he's finally getting respect.
No, Stipe's a guy that everyone always, I don't think he's going to do it. I don't think he's going to do it. And then now we're finally at a point where, he's invincible. It's like,
not invincible.
How is he invincible? How is he a over 2-1 favorite over Daniel Cormier?
I think he does, because I think Daniel Cormier has been worn down at this point. We're never going to agree on this. One thing that I will say, I forgot to say it at the beginning of the show, is we'll give you a shout out on the next episode. We're going to go through the YouTube feed and all of that. Give us your underdog pick from under 7,800, but I'm going to put one precursor on this. It can't be Paul Felder, because we're going to get to that later, and he's just mispriced. And if you write Felder, you pull yourself out of the draw, because Felder at 7,400 is going to be like the chalkiest guy on this card, 100%, like with the odds and everything baked into it. So give us your pick, and so obviously it can't be Ortega, but anybody under Ortega and lower, who is your sleeper pick? If that person wins, we will shout you out on next week's Boise, Idaho card.
Yeah, you could also possibly get some DK bucks, so that's definitely worth at least just putting your pick down, and hopefully they do good. Yeah, back to here, right? If I'm Daniel Cormier, and over the last decade I've been training at the American...
your guy's Cormier, obviously,
well, if I've been training the last 10 years at AKA, Cain Velasquez is my top training partner. He's a guy that I've grinded with. I've gone through the ringers with this guy. I've wrestled with this guy. I've struck with this guy. Largely considered, to be one of, I think he's kind of lost that moniker of the greatest heavyweight of all time, but certainly one of. This is a guy that you prepare with day in and day out. Now, Cain Velasquez ain't the guy that he used to be anymore, but he's ready to go in there with a big herky-jerky heavyweight, a guy that can wrestle, a guy that can strike. He's in there to go his 5 rounds. Also, if you're Daniel Cormier, this could be your retirement fight. This could be very well, if I win this, I'm a 2-divisional champion. I go down in history. I'm a first ballot Hall of Famer. I've done everything there is to do. I'm a former Olympian. I've got a Fox. I've got... Juice John Jones, right? You used to be a baseball fan. We talk about this all the time. Are they still Hall of Famers?
Barry Bonds is the greatest player of all time,
is he in the Hall of Fame?
He should be.
Is Mark McGuire in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, he should be, but not like Bonds.
No good cheats. No good cheats. Right. John Jones is definitely the greatest martial artist of all time. Thing is, he's on juice. And the Cormier versus Jones fight, the second time around, I don't know for sure. I can't sit here and definitively say that Daniel Cormier was up 2 rounds going into that fight, because I don't know, dude. It was actually a really close fight. I don't know why everyone's quick to assume that he was up 2-0 against John Jones, but he pushes a hard pace the first 2 rounds, and in the 3rd round, he starts to tire.
Got his ass beat.
Yeah, he gets his ass beat by a guy that was not going to tire because he was on a bunch of anabolics, right? So now that he's got Stipe's not a cheater. Stipe's a good old Ohio boy. If he pushes a tough pace on Stipe will be able to handle it, sure. I'm just saying that it's going to wear him down. He's not going to be like John Jones, fresh as a daisy in round 3. He's going to start to feel a little bit. He's going to start to get tired a little bit. Everyone always talks about... oh, well, Stipe's such a great athlete. He's a guy that wrestled D1 at Cleveland. Bro, I don't really know what his wrestling record was. However, he didn't stay at Cleveland long because he transferred out of Cleveland, went somewhere in South Carolina, and then went from South Carolina to Nashville. He finished his senior year of university.
Nobody's purporting that Stipe Miocic is going to out-wrestle Daniel Cormier.
But part of his game, Paul,
having an 8-inch reach advantage in boxing with him. We're obviously never going to agree on this, Cody. Cody loves Daniel Cormier.
Whatever.
If there's a DK draw, bucks, and everything, Cody's going to be writing messages in the comment section about how Daniel Cormier can't lose, and I'm going to go with and still heavyweight champion of the world.
You know what? We had a very similar conversation, and you were all new Francis Ngannou, and it blew up in your face. Yep. And I can't say I hope this blows up in your face too, because I'm cheering for Stipe. I just think Daniel Cormier's got some merit. And dude, the biggest thing is, like I said, I started off on Stipe. The more I watch it, this is a fight with a lot of variables. Both guys are world class. Both guys could pull it out. Similar to the co-main event, which we're about to talk about. Both guys could win this fight. It's within their realm. It's within their grasp. However, if you're going to give me plus 205 on Daniel Cormier, $7,300 on Daniel Cormier for DraftKings, Jesus, very tempting. I think I might take a poke.
Give me
at it.
Stipe with the first round knockout. We move on down the card. We got Max Holloway taking on Brian Ortega. Holloway is 8,300 on DraftKings and a -135 favorite. Ortega is 7,900 and plus 125. Two absolute stud guys in this division, in their prime.
That's the big thing, in their prime.
And this is like one hell of a fight. Like, what can you say about it, really? The one thing that we will say about it is we've been harping this tune for basically since like the Guida fight. Really, it's like Ortega's losing every single fight until all of a sudden it's just like and it's gone. You know, like the old the South Park little meme there. And like I like Holloway, but like the odds not really budging at all this week. Like it's kind of seems like late money is kind of coming in on Ortega. We'll see how as we get closer to fight day, like how that all plays out. But right now it's like I still like Holloway. Holloway will be winning this likely on the feet, but Ortega is always a completely risky fade because it's just like the guy is so dynamic.
He can finish the fight.
He can finish it at any time. You just give him one little small inch, and he takes it. And I'm going to be having a lot of Max Holloway on DraftKings. I think if you're doing lots of entries, you got to probably hedge yourself with Ortega because whoever scores or whoever wins this fight, it's like they're getting over 90 points basically.
I would
the
think so.
only scenario I was talking about this before you showed up is like if like Max Holloway boxed him up for like rounds 1 and 2 and Ortega didn't really do all that much and then caught like a submission in round 3, like that would be like the one small time scenario where like the winner doesn't necessarily end up on a top end lineup. But if you're going to be playing that strategy, like you can find me for all of my head-to-heads and I will gladly play against you because I don't know. I have to go with Holloway. I just think he's so good at manipulating range and staying out of trouble. But if we see Brian Ortega catch something, find that one little hole, like none of us can be shocked at this point. Like that's just the way that this guy is. He's a born fighter. He finds a way to win, but I think Max is going to be finally the first L that he takes in his career.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Ortega, what can you say about the guy? He's obviously earned this shot. I mean, where is you can't get caught off surprise with this guy? That ended in the Frankie fight, because I thought he was mostly just a submission guy.
He was getting outboxed against Frankie, though.
He's obviously
early.
working on his striking, and that's when you start to see it's like, oh, this guy's got some good power. That step-in elbow rocks Frankie, and then after that, it's just like everything he throws, he's precise. He's got good accuracy, right? He's a guy that can put hands on you, and then whereas you see him as just kind of like surfer jiu-jitsu guy, like man, he actually packs a pretty good punch, and that's obviously something that he's been working on, something that he's been trying to perfect. And I honestly think that he's a very, very, very well-rounded martial artist. The thing that's super interesting with Brian Ortega as well is that when you look at that history of him being Thiago Tavares and him being Diego Brandao and him being Renato Moicano and him being Clay Guida, it's like he comes back in the third round. He'll go down a round or two and he comes back in the third round. He gets better as the rounds go by. And now we're seeing him in a 5-round situation where it's like, if the third round is traditionally his best round, what's 4 and 5 going to look like? What's 4 and 5 going to look like when he starts to get these guys, a little tired, when he starts getting them a little bit vulnerable? The thing for me personally, though, is that
Max Holloway also gets better every single round.
Yeah, and I think punch output's going to be the name of the game for him here. Brian Ortega is better on the ground, and if I thought that he had some type of credible takedown game, I would think maybe he does take down Max Holloway, maybe he can't submit him, but he's going to rely heavily on pulling something up here. Like the Cub Swanson fight, where it's like maybe I can just jump onto a guillotine. Because a lot of these other fights, they're making the mistake of trying to take him down. They're taking him down. They're going right into the fire. He's scored 0. Actually, that's a lie. He scored 1 takedown against, I think, Mike Mike Delatorre. He scored a takedown on him, and he actually tested positive for steroids after that fight. Took a year off due to suspension, came back. He has not completed a single takedown in the UFC since then. So for me, I don't think that he's going to go out there and take down Max Holloway. He's going to rely on closing that distance, getting a hold of Max Holloway, and trying to
grab a leg, trying to create a scramble, trying to.
With this guy, it's certainly possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I can't play that.
That's the risky thing.
Yeah.
That's the risk that you go up against.
Yeah. For me, it's going to be, he's going to have to test the waters striking to begin with. And, you know, he's a guy that's getting a lot of confidence in his striking. He's comfortable on the feet now. And I think because, you know, you look at, say, the Clay Guida fight where he loses the first round because of the striking. The second round's actually very close. Maybe you could give it to Ortega. But again, he loses the striking exchanges early to these guys and then is able to find that extra switch, find that submission, find that flying knee, find some way to get that victory. But against Max Holloway, I don't know that's going to happen. And you're going to eat a... If it goes to the fourth round, he's already going to be 80 significant strikes landed on you. Like, the guy is a punch output type of fighter. He's going to just wear you down. I think Holloway's the best. I mean, like I said, this is the best fight the UFC could possibly put together, probably in almost every weight class. I mean, every weight class has some type of issue.
Yeah, there was Yoel versus Whitaker. That's up there, but like these are like two guys who are still young and improving.
Yoel Romero is 40 years old, and you can at least make some type of argument that he's not really like the prime of his career, right? He's fighting fantastic. He's fighting maybe as good as he ever has, but you can't say at 40 he's in the prime of his career. Robert Whitaker's awesome, but you know that staph infection fucked him up, and that knee injury fucked him up, and now you're thinking to yourself, well, Whitaker's the best guy, but like, is it two prime for prime best guys in the world? I don't know. Flyweight, Demetrius Johnson, pound for pound, he's not fighting guys that are in their prime, and he doesn't want to fight TJ Dillashaw. TJ Dillashaw, he's fighting Cody Garbrandt again. That makes no sense. Featherweight, like, this is the fight. The featherweight is the only fight for me that we're going to take. Boxing, you don't get fights like this. You don't get a guy that's 26 and a guy that's 27, who are the two best guys at the weight class, fighting each other. And to me, it's a breath of fresh air. But Max Holloway, the 26-year-old, the defending champion, he's had those big round experiences. He's a guy that, as we talked about, he, like Brian Ortega, gets better the longer the fight goes. He just lands so much that it's hard to... He's also got like a 69-inch reach, which a lot of the time he's given up a reach advantage. But against Ortega...
He fights so long.
Yeah,
he fights Ortega, so long, and he uses angles, and he stays out of trouble. And he manipulates range so well that like you never are like, oh, he's really struggling with his reach. Like, he's got actually shorter arms than you expect, but like the way he fights and how quick he is getting in and out of the pocket, it's like it hasn't really troubled him whatsoever. Yeah. And so again, now you got Ortega, a guy that hasn't completed a takedown in a very long time, against Max Holloway, a guy that actually hasn't given up a takedown in quite a long time. Back-to-back wins over Jose Aldo, smash Anthony Pettis, relative ease. You and I were at that fight. I don't know. I can't go against Max Holloway. I see the love for Brian Ortega. I totally get it. And I see a lot of people going Stipe versus Brian Ortega. Maybe that's the right call. But for my money's worth, I think I'm going to go Daniel Cormier and Max Holloway. All right, we move on down the card. We have Francis Ngannou taking on Derek Lewis. Ngannou, 9,300 and a -370 favorite. Derek, the Black Beast. Lewis is 6,900 and plus 310. As the president of the Frankie Murder fan club, I think we all know where I would be going with this one, so I'll let you take this one away.
I think Francis Ngannou knocks him out in the first round.
Yeah.
If not the first round, the second round. Yeah. Derek Lewis
Sometimes Frankie takes his time.
Still, man. So does Derek Lewis.
Sure.
Derek Lewis takes his time. He stands in front of you and allows you to engage him. Like, that's a terrible game plan against Francis Ngannou. You either got to go at this guy, hope to get some type of takedown, hopefully try to test that cardio of his, push some type of pace. But if your game plan is stand in front of him with limited mobility and no footwork, you are going to get fucked up. And that's what I kind of think here. If I'm the UFC and it's like, oh, we got something special here, and you spend all this money just promoting this guy, talking about how great he is and how he's going to be Stipe Miocic, and you spend all this money, and the UFC machine gets behind this guy and he loses. What do? Back to the drawing board. We need a tailor-made, picture-perfect opponent for Francis Ngannou that, hey, hopefully the guy's ranked and then it looks good on him. It could be an exciting fight. Who's someone we can give him?
Who's someone who's slow, lumbering,
screams.
Doesn't have great takedowns, but kind of likes to wrestle. And
terrible takedowns, but
struggles when he takes on much more athletic guys like Matt Mitrione when he took on Black Beast. I know the Black Beast has improved a lot since then, but it's just like when you have a faster heavyweight, like that's this guy's kryptonite. Somebody who's going to be a lot faster.
You know what?
And in and out of the pocket. And I think like some people will say that Ngannou's not that fast, but like he's a lot faster than Derek Lewis.
I would say he's faster than Derek Lewis. I say he hits harder than Derek Lewis. I'd say he's way more mobile. He's got better footwork. I think he's got better punch selection. Like Derek Lewis is really just like swing them big old lunch boxes at you.
And if one of those lands, like anything happens in MMA.
Yeah, the guy's got a lot of power. And you and I talked a lot about a lot of Derek Lewis's knockouts are actually on the ground. You know, he's able to get you on the ground and then pound you up from there. His last fight against Tabora, obviously, he just rocks him standing because he's got that big power. But these are heavyweights. A lot of them have big power. It's who's got that special power. Does Derek Lewis have special power? He's got big power. Guy's got big power. Francis Ngannou's got special power. And, you know, like he just touched, even his fight with Miocic, where he got washed out. He got fucked up.
Like round 4, he hit him with something when he was dog tired, and it still hurt Stipe.
It hurt him. The first round, he grazes him with 2 shots, and Stipe's eye starts to swell shut, man. Like, his corner worried. They're like, oh, shit. Stipe, move. And his chin checks out too, because Stipe lands some big shots on him and he takes them. His heart checks out. I've never been to the 4th
good for him in terms of like everybody was getting behind him, the whole hype train, everything like that. And he was proven to be mortal, I guess. Like, you know, I was part of the problem. I was pumping this guy up like he was the next big thing. I still think that he can be the next big thing. And losing going 5 rounds and not quitting on himself. I know that maybe if Stipe upped the ante, he probably could have been able to finish him off. But like Ngannou just did not quit, even when he was on the ground, dog tired. That showed a lot of heart, and I think that was an attribute that people weren't too sure about this guy. And like, I think this guy's still the limit for Francis Ngannou.
Yeah, well, I believe so too. And I never thought the guy was invincible because the glaring hole right from the get-go was his wrestling defense. We knew that.
But it was improved. Like against Curtis Blades, it improved from the Henrique fight.
Yeah, but he got taken down in both those fights. And with Stipe, who was, at least on paper, a good wrestler, a guy that would be able to take him down and hopefully be able to sustain that over the course of 25 minutes. That was his kryptonite. But with Derek Lewis, I think that's out of the window. Could the fight theoretically hit the ground at some point? Yeah. I mean, when you got 2 big guys there and they're mixing it up, maybe there's a top, maybe someone falls to the ground, maybe there's a slit, maybe there's a knockdown, I don't know. Potentially the fight could end up on the ground. But Derek Lewis is not some jiu-jitsu wizard. If Francis Ngannou feels like getting up, I assume he'd be able to get back up. And then what? Does he complete a second takedown? Like, it would be crazy to think Derek Lewis is going to get a takedown. Guy's not a wrestler. He wants to stand in front of you, wants to throw his hands. He's a lovable character. Everybody loves Black Beast. Everybody loves Derek Lewis. Probably the best social media follow that you could have is Derek Lewis. But, I mean, that's only going to get you so far. I agree with you 100% when you say about the athletic heavyweight. Matt Mitrione not only is just way faster than Derek Lewis, it's like a half punch to the side of the head. KOs Derek Lewis. Let's give him another athletic heavyweight, Sean Jordan. Sean Jordan, dude, I didn't even see that, where the fuck that kick came out of, right? So that's not going to land in this fight. But all I'm saying is it's just a shot he didn't see coming. It wasn't particularly a hard shot. It's that he didn't really see it coming. That's the one that tends to knock you out. And again, he got taken down twice against Sean Jordan. He goes down from that kick. He gets knocked out against Sean Jordan. Fine. Those are athletic, quick-moving guys with Francis Ngannou can be. But it's the Mark Hunt fight, Paul. Here's a guy that I'm not going to knock out right away, who is probably a better striker than me, and at some point he's going to catch me. I'm going to get tired. All of Derek Lewis's wins are over bed shitters. You know what I mean? Travis Brown is beating him, shits the bed. Abdurakhimov is beating him and then shits the bed. Tybura was doing pretty damn good and then shit the bed.
Yep.
Roy Nelson arguably beat him in that fight. But all these guys are guys that have success against Derek Lewis, and then one terrible lapse, they get knocked out. I don't see that happening from Francis Ngannou. 9,300, I'm willing to pay up for him because I think he's going to get that first or second round finish. The minus 370, it's heavyweights, and you know, heavyweights that pack a massive punch. Do I love it? No, but 370 is really not even that bad. So I think this is Francis Ngannou getting back in the win column, making a statement, getting the victory. I don't want to toot your horn, Paul, but I think we're on the same page, and I do agree with you.
I couldn't be happier. Let's move on. We got Michael Chiesa taking on Anthony Pettis. Chiesa is 8,600 and a minus 160 favorite. Anthony Showtime Pettis is 7,600 and plus 140. These guys were supposed to fight back at UFC 223. Well, the Brooklyn one.
The dolly to the head.
The dolly to the head took Michael Chiesa out of the event from one Conor McGregor. And Pettis they were trying to put Pettis in against Habib, but he wanted too much money.
If someone told you, hey, I got a big fight for you, you're never going to be the same afterwards.
Yeah.
But would you take it? You're going to want some money.
Yeah, I don't blame him. I'm not saying that, hey, he wanted too much money. They decided to go with Al Iaquinta because they didn't have to pay him as much as they were asking for Pettis.
It's actually a really good move on Pettis' part, and I see it a lot of the time, mostly out of trolls. A lot of people on Twitter, they're like, man, I'll fight Francis Ngannou, $10 million. You're like, Well, no one's going to pay you $10 million. So would you fight him or wouldn't you fight him? $10 million. I see this all the time. Regional scene too. I'll fight that guy. $5,000. It's like, you got paid $500 for your last fight. What do you mean $5,000? That's pricing yourself out of the fight. Anthony Pettis are like, would you fight Khabib? He's like, if I say no, I'm going to think I'm a pussy. So he's like, yeah, I'll fight Khabib. $1 million. It's like, okay, whatever. We're just going to go to somebody else. Clearly you're not serious about it. But
so who you got here?
You know what? I'm kind of flip-flopping, but God, talk me out of this. I think Anthony Pettis has a shot. The first time around, we broke down this fight.
First time around, I was thinking that he had a shot as well.
Well, GC, I thought Chiesa had him the first time around. And Chiesa might still have him. He's a bigger guy.
Nothing's really changed.
Well, nothing's really changed, but for Anthony Pettis is that we know his kryptonite, dude. The blueprint has been written on it a long time ago. Go back to the WC days when Bart Palashewski beats him, when Clay Guida beat him in his UFC debut, when his entire run of Rafael Dos Anjos and Eddie Alvarez, Justin Poirier takes him down
Pressure
5
him,
times.
give him no space, don't let him land those kicks because those kicks are dangerous.
Yeah, the takedown would be huge. Edson Barbosa didn't need the takedown. He just pressured him with the striking. If you're a bigger, physical, more aggressive guy, then you can push him on his back foot. He doesn't strike particularly great off of his back foot, and that's where you can find holes in this guy and you can exploit him. The takedown certainly helps, especially if you can mix up some striking with the takedown, like an Eddie Alvarez or a Dustin Poirier. Keep him guessing on the feet, dump him on the ground. His takedown defenses traditionally have been terrible. Michael Chiesa is a much bigger guy than Anthony Pettis. Michael Chiesa is a better grappler. Wrestler, probably. Grappler, it's not that Anthony Pettis is a bad grappler. I mean, he throws up some good arm bars. He throws up some good triangles. He's he caught Charles Oliveira with that guillotine choke. He's not Gilbert Melendez with the guillotine choke.
But like in the dirty exchanges, Michael Chiesa is just super strong and imposing.
It's just that Anthony Pettis is a bit of a pretty boy, and Michael Chiesa is a dirty, grimy grinder. Yeah. And that's kind of been the way to beat Anthony Pettis, is put that grind on him. This guy will break apart. But in the striking department, Anthony Pettis is way faster than this guy. He's way more mobile than this guy. The body kick will eat him up. He's going to hit him. The thing with Michael Chiesa is, for as good as he is, he doesn't really fight that often. Fought twice in 2015. He fought once in 2016, beat Jim Miller. Lost the first round, but beat Jim Miller. Fights once in 2017, down the first round against Beneil Dariush, but beats Beneil Dariush. And then the one fight with Kevin Lee. He's fighting essentially about once a year. So I think it's 15 with Jim Miller, 2016 is Beneil Dariush, 2017 is Kevin Lee, and now 2018, this is going to be his first and probably last fight of the year. Obviously, that Dolly kind of screwed some things up along the way. All I'm saying is that we don't really see Michael Chiesa all that often. So we know what he does well. He's a grindy fighter. He can go out there. He can hopefully get a takedown. And when he does get you on the ground, he's got great grip strength. He's got great submissions. But Anthony Pettis is getting out grinded. He's not getting submitted. And that's kind of what Chiesa does. Chiesa finds an opportunity, he gets your neck, and he submits you. Whereas Anthony Pettis is just getting, he can get TKO'd potentially, but he took a shit kick against Rafael Dos Anjos and kept trucking. He's been grounded by better guys. He got completely thrashed against Edson Barbosa. His leg was mangled. The guy doesn't quit, and he's not getting submitted. So if this is going to go 3 rounds, he's going to have opportunity standing, and I think that if it does stay standing, he'll be able to piece up Michael Chiesa, be able to land some strikes. It's going to be a point-based victory. It's going to be a point fight style, but if he stays to the outside, he uses that mobility, uses that footwork, he uses those long-range strikes, then I think that Michael Chiesa is very plodding, man. He marches forward. Look at his fight with Mitch Clark and Joe Lozon. Joe Lozon pieces him up because he moves on a straight line at Joe Lozon, and it's a cut stoppage, kind of a bullshit cut stoppage, but it's a nasty cut. And the Mitch Clark fight, he doesn't looks terrible in the 3rd round. Mitch Clark is terrible himself, and just doesn't really look all that great outside of his takedown. So my final point on this one is, I actually really thought Joseph Benavidez would get Sergio Pettis to the ground. And, Sergio's not a great wrestler either. The problem is, dude, when you're young and you're athletic and you have one glaring hole and you can focus on that one glaring hole, you're going to make some improvements. You're going to stuff a couple takedowns, and when you do stuff a couple takedowns, you can make those guys pay. Michael Chiesa is not as good of a wrestler as some of the guys Anthony Pettis has fought before, and if Anthony Pettis has surely shored up some wrestling here, then potentially he keeps his fight standing long enough to make something happen. The fact that he's the underdog at plus 140, only $7,600 on DK.
I don't think I won't be playing a bet on Anthony Pettis. I just don't trust Anthony Pettis because he may just be so washed at this point.
He could be.
He just gets pressured. He looks really hesitant all the time. I think on paper, if even 75% Pettis, the great Pettis, shows up at this fight, this is the type of fight he can win. I'll have a little bit of exposure on DraftKings just in case he lands one of those kicks, but trust me, it's dicey. It's dicey. I don't feel great about it.
No, I hear you. Even if he lands that kick, I don't think he's knocking out Michael Chiesa. He's going to have to land a bunch of those kicks and hopefully just do enough to squeak by on rounds. And I hear you, dude. He came from that era where, like a Johnny Hendricks, once the going was gone, or once the good going was gone, it wasn't coming back, man. And maybe he falls into that category as one of these guys that we think of him as the great Anthony Pettis. I'm sitting here telling you that maybe he made improvements to his wrestling defense, and yet CM fucking Punk came from this gym, spent 2 years there, and didn't improve shit. So, potentially, this is going to be the same situation. He's going to look terrible. He's going to lose. Everyone's going to say, okay, it's the end of the road for Anthony Pettis.
And he's really done. Maybe he probably goes to Bellator.
Maybe. However, Chiesa's way bigger than him. He's a big 55er taking on a guy that used to try to fight at 45. Yeah. So he's going to have the size advantage. And the size advantage works for the grappler. So a lot of people I think are going to be on Chiesa, and Chiesa could very well win. But sometimes when you get that size advantage,
the height doesn't work in his favor, though.
But you're slower and you're plodding, the guy with the better footwork that's the better striker keeps it standing and beats you. Like, I think Pettis has a shot, and I don't see that very often, so we'll see what happens on Saturday.
Gokhan Saki takes on Khalil Rountree. Gokhan Saki is 8,400 on DraftKings and a -135 favorite. Khalil Rountree is 7,800 and +115. Explain this one to me. I don't really understand. Like, this is like a hand-picked matchup for Gokhan Saki. Why is this line so damn close to a pick'em?
Well,
like, because honestly,
think
like,
about it.
I am loading up the truck, at least on DraftKings, on Gokhan Saki 8,400.
I would assume most people are.
Yeah, like, he should be one of the most owned people, and I think he should. But like, from a betting perspective, he doesn't actually have the greatest odds value on this card. And -135. I've already made a bet on Gokhan Saki too. Just like there was a picture that surfaced last week of Khalil Rountree wearing like a wrestling singlet. So I think he was trying to like be like, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna take him down. It's just like, good fucking luck, pal. I hope you come out in and try to do that, because like, you can't wrestle. We've seen you always get dominated in wrestling. Maybe his wrestling is better than Gokhan Saki's. We know he's on the feet. He is not anywhere near him like that, and that's where Rountree has been at his best. I know Gokhan Saki, he got into a barn burner with Louise Frankenstein there.
Barn burner.
And it wasn't looking too good until
but that's why this fight is close to a pick'em. It's like, we don't know what we're going to get out of Saki. That last fight was crazy.
Yeah, but if they get into that type of exchange, I'm going to put my money on the world-class K1 champion kickboxer to get the job done against a guy who lists on his Wikipedia page as getting into MMA when he was 22 to lose weight.
And actually got all the way down to 100.
I just don't understand the line. Like, the line does feel super trappy, but like, call me a fish because I'm taking it.
Yeah, I don't know. I assume that the line's going to be like that because, A, if the fight does happen to go to the ground, we don't know what we're getting out of Gokhan Saki. That's first and foremost. Second of all, Gokhan Saki's last fight was crazy. If he wouldn't have knocked him out at the end of that second round, because, by the way, De Silva's starting to come on. Saki is getting tired. And then after that fight, he actually had
Rountree has a historically bad gas tank as well, though.
Yeah, I know. That's why I just
so it's that type of
fight.
If they don't finish it in the first round, like, this is going to be like a dog-tired guys Kimbo slicing, rest in peace, around the cage type of thing.
Yeah, certainly possible. He dealt with a big injury actually after his last fight against De Silva, where he was sidelined for 6 months. Said he wasn't really able to train. He says he's been trying to work on conditioning because he hasn't been able to do. He hasn't been able to work on his takedown defense. He hasn't been able to work on his striking for the most part. He's just been trying to work on his conditioning while the injury heals. Injury heals. Okay, I'm ready to go. They had Khalil Rountree lined up for him before the last fight got canceled. So obviously this is the logical fight to make. And you put two guys that look like they have about 5 minutes worth of cardio in them that just want to throw some big old heaters, and let's see what happens. Although Khalil Rountree, even though he's a striker, even though that seems to be what he does best, he'd be a moron to stand in front of Gokhan Saki and try to exchange with him. He's wearing that singlet probably because his entire camp was get this fight to the ground. You do not want to stand with Gokhan Saki. You talked about the weight loss thing, the fact that Khalil Rountree got into MMA only 8 years ago for weight loss, and then eventually was like, oh, I'll take a couple fights, took a couple fights, versus a guy that when Khalil Rountree was a big fat fatty trying to lose weight, myself, this other guy was fighting Semi Schilt in Japan. This other guy was fighting heavyweights, monstrous heavyweights, 6'8" heavyweights. He's fighting Badr Hari. He's fighting everybody. He's fighting Tyrone Spong. He destroyed my boy Nathan Corbett inside of 1 round. You want to talk about striking? This guy knocked out Henry Hooft in about a minute and a half, right? Gokhan Saki is as good of a kickboxer as you're
Gonzaga's
possibly
minus
going to get.
135.
Yeah, because he's a kickboxer, Paul.
Still,
he's not an MMA fighter.
He's not fighting.
He is a
He's
kickboxer.
not fighting an MMA fighter. This guy's just somebody who took it on as a hobby and was pretty good at it.
That's fair.
There's levels to this game, and I think we're going to see that in this fight.
Yeah, but remember we were watching Dana White's Contender Series a couple weeks ago, and Giga Chikadze is on. Giga Chikadze is a glory kickboxer. He's a very good kickboxer, a Georgian guy that's a third-degree black belt, I believe, in Kyokushin karate and Kempo. He's a very good striker. He's a guy that says, "Oh, I'm just going to fight in MMA because the money's better." He fights a nobody. Was Austin Springer? He fights a nobody. That nobody had probably watched a YouTube tutorial on how to take a man down, and it worked. And this guy, who's not a grappler, is now looking like Henzo fucking Gracie in there because he's gone against a guy that has nothing on the ground.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is, if Gokhan Saki lands a couple punches, throws a high kick, and slips, and Khalil Rountree's to get on top of him, what is going to happen?
I don't have that much faith in Rountree's ground game.
We don't know.
To really think that there's any value there, right?
He's terrible on the ground. But is it possible that Gokhan Saki is also terrible on the ground?
That is actually more terrible.
That is a possibility.
That is the risk that you buy.
So you've got two terrible guys on the ground. And I don't know what the exact stat is, but most fights tend to end up on the ground at some point. Well, then who knows? But yeah, no, dude, Gokhan, if they're going to stand up for 5 minutes until one of them goes down, Gokhan Saki's putting this guy down. I think he's the man. And a quick little, because we got to fly through these fights, quick little greasy theory for you. I mentioned Gokhan Saki knocked out Henry Hooft in less than a minute, less than 90 seconds back in the day. Henry Hooft, try to find his kickboxing record. Doesn't exist. However, Harry Hooft was a kickboxer out of the Netherlands who fought in the 1999 K1 Grand Prix. Looks just like Henry Hooft. There's nothing on the net that says Harry and Henry Hooft are the same person. Henry doesn't appear to have a twin brother, doesn't appear to have any type of sibling. I'm thinking Henry Hooft is Harry Hooft, and Stefan Leko and our boy here killed him. The Turkish Mike Tyson, you're going to bet against this guy in a stand-up battle? Not happening, so yeah, give me some.
Next on down the card, we have Paulo Costa, or Paulo Borrachina, as the Brazilian fans like to refer to him, as the most expensive guy on the card at 9,400. Uriah Hall is 6,800. Betting line has minus 420 and plus 335 respectively. I don't know, man. I think Costa's been impressive along the way here so far, but like he took care of Gareth McClellan in round 2 in his UFC debut.
Is that round 1?
I believe it was round 2. I could be wrong. He's had 2 fights that have ended in round 2 and one that's ended in round 1.
No, listen.
Gareth McClellan is a certified Paul Shag worst fighter in the UFC. Then
that's why he lasted a minute and 17 seconds.
Okay, and then what was his fight in between there?
Oluwale. That went second round.
Oluwale Bengbase, who's got like quitter written all over him. He got into the second round.
He lasted 6 minutes.
Yeah.
He made it 1 minute
got
into the second round.
2. And then he took on the absolute corpse of Johnny Hendricks.
Who also lasted 6 minutes.
Who just retired because he's just like, I'm done. And was so outsized. Like this kid looks, as the people on the co-main event would say, Paulo Costa looks really good getting off the bus. The guy's got the look. He's super jacked, super athletic. He looks like he has a lot of potential. I'm just not buying into it here. I think Uriah Hall could be the more technical striker, the more aware striker. I don't think he's going to allow himself to get boxed in, as Borchin is just going to kind of bull forward. He's basically just a hardcore pressure fighter. I think Uriah Hall has a shot here. And I'll throw a couple lineups just to kind of differentiate in GPPs, just in case we get that massive upset. I'm gonna stay away from Costa here, just in the hopes that even if Costa does win, Uriah Hall, we've talked about it for ages, that like he kind of likes to slow down the pace of the fight, keep his distance, not do all that much. When he's 6,800, if he happens to get the win, that actually works out for you. But he also kills the value of his opponent at 94 if you get into round 2. I'm avoiding Paulo Costa on DraftKings. I'm avoiding him on the betting line. I wish I could nut up and actually play Uriah Hall at plus 335, but maybe if we get plus 400, I'll take a small stab. But preferred play is Uriah Hall, 6,800.
Yeah, I gotta go the opposite direction for sure and say Borrachino probably pieces this guy up. You gotta think about something big here with Uriah Hall. Uriah Hall's last fight in which that he had that big weight cut fiasco, he essentially goes blind in one eye, has a seizure, almost dies, gets hospitalized, has organ failure, and then they're like, oh, that was a close one. So you can make 185 again? Oh yeah, I'll do that. Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
Well, now he knocked out Jocko in his last fight.
Yeah, but the weight cutting problems were after that fight, right?
Yep.
He was supposed to fight, and
he's got it all sorted out. I don't know. It's a dart. Like I'm throwing a dart on these.
You're throwing
ones.
a dart
I just don't like Costa.
You're throwing a dart here, but honestly, I think this is a setup by the UFC. A big fuck you to Uriah Hall. Just my thought on it. I'm going to explain here. Uriah Hall, they gave him a freebie. He was supposed to take on Vitor. That is a favor. This is a, hey man, sorry you had to fight those killer row of guys, Gegard Mousasi and Robert Whittaker and Derek Brunson. Here's a pat on the back. You can beat a Hall of Famer, and it's not likely going to be that difficult of a fight. Here you go. Yep. You blow weight for this fight. You siege, you're out. Dana White goes on record and trashes this guy and says, oh, the guys at the UFC Performance Institute say how lazy he is and how unprofessional he is. He basically throws him under the bus. Now, we're not going to give you a pat on the back Vitor Belfort fight. You take the guy that we typically put people who are in the doghouse against, because Hendricks is in the doghouse too for missing weight, and he got the exact same treatment.
The guy that looks like TR Titor.
Yeah, the guy's probably on steroids, and I ain't betting against him, right? He's as shredded can be. Good looking guy, 27 years old. He's a big power puncher, the kind of guy that's going to be aggressive, get on you, and you know, hurt you. He doesn't get in there to point fight. He doesn't get in there to Uriah Hall. Uriah Hall, I'm going to steal this line. It's not my line. I just thought it was awesome, but it's Israel Adesanya's line about Uriah Hall. The guy's Mortal Kombat. He's a button masher. He smash a bunch of buttons and do a bunch of flying knee, spinning back kick, flying knee, and hope to God something lands. But that's what he does, man. He just high impact moves. The way he beats guys, beats Jocko. He's getting killed in the first round against Jocko. It's a 10-8 round, but he lands that big strike. Okay. Gegard Mousasi, not in this fight. Oh, well, that big flying knee. Like, the guy can land the big shot. But that's all he is. He's a flash in the pan. He's a maybe he can land that big shot. His whole run's been like that. He's on The Ultimate Fighter. He has the greatest KO ever over Adam Sella. Everyone's big on this guy. He loses to Kelvin Gastelum. Huge upset. Since then, loses to Rafael Natal. Like, the guy's a bust. He's a complete and utter bust. So now we've got a bust who's now 33 years old, who has trouble making the weight, who is in our bad graces, and we're going to give him the 27-year-old, looking good, undefeated, learned a lot because he lost on... Beat nobody, but has looked really good beating nobody. I just think he's puts it on him.
He's done what he's had to do against the nobodies.
You know what? I think... Because I kind of agreed with you. He beat Garrett McClellan really quick, and the Oluwole fight, it did go a minute into the second round. And then the Hendricks fight, I knew he was going to kill Hendricks, but a part of me thought, Hendricks is a pretty durable guy. Like, what's his fight going to look like? And it didn't get past 6.5 minutes, so like it was a minute and a half into the second round, so I don't know, but it didn't even look like he was beginning to tire. He looked on point. And I just feel like backing up your opponent and putting it on them, that'd be the key here. If I'm Uriah Hall and I just had a bad weight cut, that bad of a weight cut, it's not just going to magically get better. Plus, he was at the Performance Institute getting ready for that last one. They were helping him, and it didn't get any better. If he has a good first round, great. I think he slows down at some point. I think he gets caught at some point. He's not exactly doesn't have a great chin. We've seen him get rocked many times in the past. And I honestly feel like the younger, better athlete is going to do exactly what the UFC wants him to do. This kid's marketable. He looks good. He sounds good. He's great for the Brazilian market. You know, they're still trying to sell fights big time over there. They need that next Vitor Belfort. You know, they need that next Lyoto Machida. They need that next Anderson Silva. Well, who's it going to be? Set up this guy with fun, exciting, winnable fights and build him up. And that's what this is. The $9,400 price tag, the only reason I'm personally avoiding it is that you save $100 and get Francis Ngannou, who I think is the safer play and has, you know, equally, probably a higher ceiling in my opinion, then I'm going to go with that. The 420 line, it's like, yeah, whatever, it's under 5-1 at least, and I don't love it when it starts to get that big, but again, I have no faith in Uriah Hall. I don't think his little magic trick's going to work this time. I think he gets beat soundly, so sign me with Borrachino.
Mike Perry is 8,800 on DraftKings and a plus 135 underdog. Paul Felder is 7,400 and minus 155. When I told you guys earlier, put your picks or your sleepers from under or 7,800, so it'd be like Khalil, Rountree, and down. Is what I said. Felder doesn't count. You guys, if you put Felder in, you're not getting a shout out on the show next week. Obviously, what ended up happening here is Perry was opened as like a minus 270 favorite, and the entire market flooded towards Felder to now to the point that he's a minus 155 favorite. It's going to be really like on DraftKings. There's a point to be made that hey, Perry hits really hard. He usually finishes fights when he's on, and he lands when he lands big, and he's going to be a massive leverage play if you want to play that. But Felder's going to be the most owned guy on the card. I think he's the more technical striker. We've seen where Mike Perry struggles, and it's when he's against even Max Griffin, who people were not all that high on his technical striking. Heading into that fight, was just able to piece this guy up, keep moving, and not be a sitting duck for the power shots that he lands. It's like Jake Ellenberger got absolutely starched, but that's because Jake Ellenberger stood right there. Yeah. If you don't stand there,
guys, that's what they
Paul
do.
Felder is now, he's on the Contender Series as a broadcaster.
Great broadcaster.
Guy's always been a super smart,
very
smart guy and technical guy. I think he looks at this opponent. I know it's late notice or whatever, but I think he looks at this opponent and he knows exactly how to chop him up. He just doesn't have to get caught. He's 7,400. Fade him at your own risk, but at 7,400, he's obviously the safest play on the card underneath that.
Yeah, I don't think it's a big deal for Paul Felder, the fact that it's short notice because he was getting ready for a fight. But honestly, I can't just think about this honestly, right? Imagine you were in the UFC. If they offered you James Vick or Mike Perry,
I'm taking Mike Perry.
Would you rather fight Mike Perry?
100%.
Yeah, I mean, James Vick's a former pro boxer who's 6'3" and plays a massive range game, is as big as Mike Perry.
And has a sneaky submission game as well.
Because a nasty submission game, is very technical, has a good gas tank, doesn't slow down. Like Mike Perry.
And Mike Perry has the bigger cachet, the bigger name cachet.
Mike Perry
you benefit more from taking on Mike Perry, and he offers a lot less, frankly.
Yeah, honestly, I've seen Mike Perry. I've seen the equivalent of Mike Perry 100 times, right? If you want to meet this guy at the bike rack after school, he's gonna fuck you up, right? But if he walks into the local boxing gym and tries to spar somebody, they're gonna fuck him up, right? Yeah. He's a very strong, aggressive guy. He's obviously got that big power, but you're gonna generate that big power when you just throw pretty much everything you have into it. I think we know where Mike Perry's at this point. I mean, when he's beating guys, not that they're bad by no means. Danny Roberts, I've always been high on Danny Roberts. I think that he's a better fighter than he's shown in the UFC, certainly. A technical striker, a guy that was training with, the Black Zillions, a great team behind him. And Mike Perry touches and they go down. Well, Jake Ellenberger, Jake Ellenberger can wrestle. Yeah, but does he wrestle anymore? No. Not really. He stood in front of Mike Perry. He lands, some okay shots, but ultimately he ate the nastiest elbow in the face and it KO'd him. Alex Reyes fights. That guy was short notice. Mike Perry caught him. It is what it is. When he's taken on the Alan Joubands of the world or the Santiago Ponzinibbio, the last time I thought Perry actually had a good effort, and then Max Griffin, these guys know what range is. These guys know how to strike off the back foot. These guys know how to put combinations together. These guys know how to use distance. They're eating them up. Paul Felder's got to be in that same boat. I saw someone say the other day, Paul Felder's got low ring IQ. Is it lower than Mike Perry's ring IQ? I don't know that I can say that. Paul Felder sometimes puts himself into bad situations, but he's fighting elite level competition, Should he have been on the ground with Charles Oliveira? No, but he takes Charles Oliveira's best attempts at choking him out, something very few guys do, and they're able to, weather that storm, so to speak, and then smash him off with elbows. The Stevie Ray fight. Stevie Ray, a world-class fighter? No, but that's why he only lasted 3 minutes. Is Alex Ricci a world-class fighter? No, that's why he didn't get out of the first round. Paul Felder's great. And also, my former boxing coach, Billy Briscoe, Philly guy, the man, right? Trained Gabe Rosado basically from the ground up. He worked with Paul Felder, and he had told me, he's like, man, I've seen a lot of, UFC fighters and MMA fighters box, and they're not very good boxers. He's like, this Paul Felder guy, he's got it. He's got good hands. He moves his head. It's hard to hit this guy clean. And there lies the problem for Mike Perry. Paul Felder has been finished due to strikes one time against Trinaldo because of a cut. Yep. Outside of that, He does not get
and
knocked out.
he wanted to keep fighting. He was just
yeah, dude. He was like, screw it. Let me keep going. Now, he had been dropped in that fight, but what I'm saying is that he was never severed from his conscience. Like, the guy's got a wicked good chin, and Perry really relies on the one-shot dynamite kill. He just hits you, you go down. That's the end of it. I don't see that happening with Paul Felder. I think Paul Felder's going to work him with the leg kicks, slow this guy down a bit. Perry eventually start lunging in. Paul Felder should be able to just intercept him. I'm intrigued by the fact that Mike Perry has finally left a shit gym and having his horse-faced girlfriend from Ocala, as Colby Covington would say, coach him. Like, I'm intrigued the fact that he's gone to Jackson's wing, and he's put in a 6-week camp, and that he's going to have a real team behind him, and he's got his real sparring partners. Like, that all intrigues me, but 6 weeks is not enough to change your game around completely, and Paul Felder's a ranked opponent for a reason. He is moving up to 170 pounds. That would perhaps be one thing to make you worry, but again, I don't think they're going to be that big of a size advantage. I think Paul Felder gets the job done. And again, looking at the price, the 7,400 you can justify because it's very cheap. Does Felder knock out Perry?
It's ridiculously cheap.
Yeah.
He's a favorite, so like he's going to be the most expensive guy on the card.
Yes,
you can fade him at your own risk, but if Felder wins and Felder scores 80 points, you are losing all of your money this week on DraftKings. So that's just the way he's going to be loaded up in cash. He's going to be loaded up on everything.
That's what I'm saying with Paul Felder, is that even though I think he wins a fight, I don't look at it and think, geez, he's going to finish Mike Perry. Mike Perry is a tough guy.
7,400.
Mike Perry will take the beating. He'll stand there. He'll eat the shots. But the 7,400, shit, I don't need to finish. I just need him to go out there and win this fight, which I think he'll do.
All right, we got Rafael Assuncao taking on Rob Font. Rafael Assuncao is 9,100 on DraftKings and a minus 170 favorite. Rob Font is 7,100 and plus 150 respectively. Who you got?
I don't know. I mean, I'm going back and forth on this one again. Rafael Assuncao is obviously, in my opinion, the better fighter. He's been a guy that's been around a lot longer. He's fought a better level of competition, but I just feel like he's slowing down a little bit. He had that ankle injury, and since then, I think his mobility is just a little bit off. His fight with Marlon Moraes, he was the slower guy in that fight. He did get the victory, but again, I think a lot of people debated that one. And Rob Font's kind of coming to his own, right?
He did damn near kill Aljamain Sterling.
Rafael Assuncao.
Yes.
Well, Aljamain Sterling. We're talking Marlon Moraes almost killed Aljamain Sterling.
Oh, wasn't it? Who did Rafael Assuncao get his finish off of over in his last time out?
But did he? You think he almost killed him?
All right, you keep talking. I'm gonna look it up.
Well, it's right here.
He had a flying knee knockout.
No, he had a split decision win over Aljamain Sterling, a split decision win over Marlon Moraes, and then a third-round TKO over Matthew Lopez.
That was the Matthew Lopez fight.
Wow, what I'm saying is he did not almost kill Aljamain Sterling.
He almost killed Matthew Lopez.
It would be very impressive if he had a big first-round finish over a guy like Aljamain Sterling, but that was Marlon Moraes that hit him with the flying knee to the head.
I don't know. I think you're underrating. I think you're underrating Rafael Assuncao here.
Okay, well then that's
one problem that I've always seen with Font can't fight off his back foot. So if you're going to be smart, you're going to basically pressure that pocket. You're just going to keep moving forward. And when this guy is fighting off his back foot, he's got nothing. We saw Lineker is the king of it, so it's tough. It's tough to follow that suit. I thought that that Thomas Almeida would be, he would watch tape and he would go, all right, I just got to keep just pressuring forward on this guy. And he really didn't. He just kind of stayed at range and he tried to counter. And that's when Rob Font will torch you. And that's exactly what happened to Thomas Almeida. And Rob Font gets the biggest win of his career. And good on him. But if you're Rafael Assuncao has always been very, very smart with his ring IQ, pretty high. The guy's not the most exciting fighter. I don't really want to play him on DraftKings 9,100 because
he could get the first round submission. He could,
but he just fights a really slow pace. So it really depends on how this type of fight plays out. I will assure you that Rafael Assuncao will not be all that owned. So if you feel like he's going to get a first round submission, maybe it's a GBP play for you. But I'm going to be fading him on DraftKings. I just think he's probably going to kind of walk forward, pressure him, not really give Font too much room. And when Font's off the back foot, Font's losing. Yeah, honestly, I think that the path of victory for Assuncao is the takedown. Get this guy down. Pedro Munoz was able to get him down. He was able to submit Rob Font in the first round. Outside of that, Rob Font don't look that bad. The John Lineker thing, no one's going to be able to fight like John Lineker outside of John Lineker. So it's hard to look at that, that's how you beat this guy. It's like, yeah, but literally only one guy can fight that way. So Assuncao's not going to do that. I think he is slower. I think he is getting older. And yeah, listen, he's the favorite. I agree he's the favorite. For 9,100, I'm not interested in playing him. The minus 170, it's very tempting, but
I don't know, man. This honestly feels like a trap to me. It feels like one of these old guard, young guard. Thought's not spring chicken. I think he's like 31 years old. He's not exactly a young prospect anymore, but he's a good striker. He's a guy that finds openings, and if he keeps his feet standing, he's going to be able to beat Assuncao. Assuncao had the initial win over TJ Dillashaw, and that was a big one for him. But then he took so much time off that when he came back and he had that second fight against TJ Dillashaw, that's when I really saw that TJ is a guy that's mobile, standing, has a good enough wrestling to keep the fight standing, and he's able to just pick this guy apart. Assuncao's game. He's going to move forward. He's going to take those shots. He's never going to quit. But you can beat this guy based on precision striking and speed, and that's kind of what Dillashaw did to him. I think Font could do the same thing, but this is largely a pass fight for me. I have no interest in it. As far as the betting line goes, I would be tempted to take Rob Font, but he's not a big enough dog that I feel comfortable in it. And Rafael Assuncao, I'm not trusting it. And as far as the 7,100 goes, if he's going to win, he's going to have to win just on point base, win 2 of the 3 rounds, and hope that the Vegas judges give it to you. Whereas if you're Rafael Assuncao, yeah, he's kind of a boring guy. He kind of likes to slow down the pace of his fights with that takedown. So this is just a clean avoid for me.
Yeah, I can agree with that. We have Curtis Millender taking on Max Griffin. Curtis Millender is 8,700 and minus 165 favorite. Max Payne Griffin is 7,500 plus 145. Who you got?
I mean, you know me, man. I'm a Curtis Millender guy. I like him. I've followed him for a decent amount of time. Bellator, LFA, all that jazz. Comes to the UFC, takes on Thiago Alves, and it's like, ooh, baby. This is a good fight for Curtis Millender. He's the underdog in the fight. He's taking on a completely shop-worn version of Thiago Alves. That, again, is one of these slow, plodding guys at this point in his career. It's just what it is. He's not the same guy that he used to be. And Curtis Millender going there and put on a big performance, looks good, and now he's going to be the favorite over Max Griffin. These guys are kind of similar in the sense that they're both rangy guys. They both can kind of play that range game. But Max Griffin just doesn't have enough pop in his punches for my liking. We've seen him get into like a war like that Zaleski dos Santos fight, Zaleski dos Santos. And it's just like, oh man, he gets a couple shots off, but like that big shot lands on him, and he's not getting the better of the exchanges. He's willing to step into the fire, he's willing to step into the pocket, he's willing to throw down, but he doesn't get the better of it. The Mike Perry fight, his side's, geez, why would I want to get into a firefight with Mike Perry? We just found out from my last fight, this is not exactly a good look for me. So I'm just going to play off the back foot, jab this guy, move away. Mike Perry is Mike Perry. He's just going to move right forward. He's not going to cut any angles on me.
Yep.
I can just intercept this guy. That's fine. It's just now with Curtis Millender, not going to be able to do that. Here's a guy that's a much more technical striker than a guy like Mike Perry, who also knows how to play the range game. Got a better kick game, a little more experience. I think Millender gets it done. The $8,700, I don't like it. Max Griffin, again, another savvy guy, probably going to be able to survive. I would need a finish out of Millender. And just because Millender had that big win over Thiago Alves, I think because he scored big in his UFC debut, DraftKings-wise, they're giving him an $8,700 price tag. He had a lot of
physical advantages against Thiago Alves, who's super small, kind of stocky for the division, and Millender used those strengths to his advantage. Against Griffin, he's not going to have those same advantages, right?
Yeah, of course.
The speed and the length and everything, probably pretty comparable. I imagine Millender probably still has slight advantages there, but like not that he can exploit like he did. Max Griffin is my preferred play on DraftKings if I was going to, but this is another fight that kind of screams like 3-round close decision to me that you don't necessarily have to roster. So if I'm going to roster it, it's going to be Max Griffin, but that's about it. Let's move on down. We got Daniel Hooker taking on Gilbert Burns. Hooker is 8,500 and a minus 125 favorite. Gilbert Dorino Burns is 7,700 and plus 105 we got.
You know me, and styles make fights, and I do believe that Gilbert Burns is a better grappler than Dan Hooker, and if he gets them to the ground, I mean, Hooker's a long, rangy guy, but those are the kind of guys that are a lot easier to hold down on the ground, or maybe isolate a limb and try to submit this guy. Got a long neck on him, maybe you can find the neck. It seems like Gilbert Burns would be the preferred play for me. However, Daniel Hooker is a guy that finds ways to victory, and Gilbert Burns is a guy that finds ways to shit the bed. He is untrustworthy to me. I know he doesn't have a plethora of losses, is that there's been very, very few times that I've watched Gilbert Burns fight and think to myself, damn, this guy looks good. It's mostly, what are you doing, Gilbert?
Yeah,
Gilbert,
why are you striking
what are
with
you
this
doing?
guy?
Why are you
and
striking?
He bailed himself out a couple of times, like against Cowboy Oliveira.
Bails himself out.
He's just like, he was down 2 rounds, boxing with this guy, getting chewed up on the feet. And then round 3, he's just like, okay, I gotta go for a takedown. And as soon as he got the takedown, like the mastery that this guy has on the ground, like he's super elite. He's world class. But it's like the problem is he's fallen in love with his striking. His last fight, he won by knockout.
Lost 2 fights, yeah.
Yeah. So now he's probably thinking going into this, I'm going to stand with this guy,
Dude,
and that's a bad look against Hooker.
See, here's the thing, dude. I agree with you. It almost seems like that's the mindset. It's so cliche, the world-class grappler who knocks out somebody and is, oh, I like this. It's like, that's kind of what this guy does. Cowboy Oliveira was making his debut on short notice and was unheralded. Take this guy down. He allowed himself to get beat up for 2 rounds. The fight against Lucas Sajewski, he got hurt bad by strikes in the first round. And then hurt Sajewski and was able to submit him. But again, hurt by Lucas Sajewski. The Michel Prazeres fight, what he does well, he was completely neutralized. He had nothing. With that takedown's out of the question, I can't get this guy down, I can't submit him. It's like, now you're at bay if you're going to stand in front of a better striker than you can get beat up. And then, yeah, Jason Sago and Dan Moret. I love Jason Sago. But again, these guys are not exactly like high-level UFC guys. So at some point, it's like, okay, Gilbert Burns, you got to go back into the fire and maybe take on some tougher opponents. And with Dan Hooker, he's just on a roll right now. He's got all types of confidence. And, even just look at his last fight.
Him and his boy Izzy, who we'll talk about a little bit later on the show.
Yeah.
Getting ready for a day apart. Adesanya's on the card, obviously, for the TUF finale as the main event. And Hooker, like him, those two are boys. And actually, Hooker's not actually that much smaller. I know that Adesanya probably could make 170 pounds if he really focused on making a cut. And the two of them standing next to each other, it's just like, all right, who's the guy who used to fight at featherweight and who's the middleweight? It's kind of crazy.
You know something? Go on Instagram and go to Luis Pena's Instagram, Violent Bob Ross, who we'll talk about on the TUF finale card. And he's got a picture of him next to Gokhan Saki, and they're pretty much the same size.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And this guy's a lightweight, and Gokhan Saki is a light heavyweight.
Yeah.
So size is really hard to gauge sometimes. Forrest Griffin's twice the size of Roy Nelson, but Roy Nelson's the heavyweight. Sometimes it's just, you don't know. With Dan Hooker, though, yeah, this guy, he used to fight at 45, and when he came up to 55, it's like, well, he's going to be all skinny. It's like, guy's pretty big, man. Guy fits his frame pretty good, but it's the confidence on Dan Hooker. He's at a point in his career now where everything's coming together. He's 28 years old, but the fight with Jim Miller, that knockout, that knee to the face, huge. The same knee that he knocks out Ross Pearson with. These are guys that are savvy veterans, been around the block, seen a thing or two. You knock these guys out. His fight with Mark Diakese, he's the underdog in this fight, but he goes out, he beats Diakese. Whenever you count him out, he's going to pull out that big victory. And this is a fight where, he is the slight favorite, but I do see some love for Gilbert Burns. For my money's worth is that last fight for Dan Hooker is that after he beats Jim Miller, huge victory, Paul Felder comes in, he's like, who would you like to fight? He's like very respectful. He's like, honestly, I'd like to fight you. That's big, man. Calling Paul Felder out to his face while he's interviewing you. I think that goes to talk about the mindset of man, I can beat all these guys. I want top contenders. I want ranked guys. I want to go out there. I want exciting opponents. I want to put on a statement. And you get Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns is not a very good wrestler, right? He's awesome on the ground, and he's a good striker, but he's not a very good wrestler. Hooker spent a lot of time on his takedown defense to keep the fight standing, to beat guys up just like this. He's the rangier guy, and we saw what happened with Gilbert Burns when he takes on a rangier guy like Cowboy Oliveira. He's the second man to land the punch. He's always getting beat to the punch, and he doesn't wear damage particularly well around his eyes. They start to swell. He starts to panic. He needs that takedown, and if that takedown doesn't come here, and I don't think it's going to come here, it should be Hooker. 8,500 on Hooker. I kind of see this one going to decision again, so I'm going to try to spend some of my money in other areas. Not a bad play. Really don't think it's a bad play, especially if you need somebody in that range. Then yeah, Dan Hooker could be a good one. The minus 125, I'm gonna take my shot on that for sure.
So to wrap it up, if you mess with Hooker, you're gonna get Burns.
If you mess with Hooker, you're gonna get a bloody gash.
Oh God, we got Lando Vannata taking on Drakkar Klose. Lando Vannata is 9,000 on DraftKings and a minus 185 favorite. Klose is 7,200 and plus 160. Who you got?
Man, Drakkar Klose really should have pulled one out for me. I had him over Tamur, and I was like, come on, baby. Come on. But
he thought he won the fight.
Yeah.
He thought he was the only guy doing anything in that fight.
It was probably a bias and some Jägermeister. But I kind of thought he could have won the fight. I mean, he landed some shots, but mostly just pulled the old 209. What? It's like, dude, Just fight him. Why are you just sitting there talking shit? And then it was a lot of cage work, grimy cage work, but he wasn't completing takedowns. He was just kind of controlling him on the cage. When it went to the scorecards, honestly, I didn't know. I thought it was going to be close. I thought it could go either way, but it seems like nobody thought that Drakkar Klose won that fight. So now he's got Landon Vannata, and if nobody thought he won that David Taymor fight, then I don't know, is he going to change something magically? He's an MMA lab guy, and he fights like a prototypical MMA lab guy. I'm a decent striker, I'm a decent wrestler, I'm a grindy sumbitch. I get you up against the cage, I'm going to make you work, I'm going to try to tire you out. But what is he going to do against Landon Vannata? Landon Vannata is going to be quicker than him, he's a better striker, he's a more diverse striker, I should definitely say. But he's actually a decent wrestler, man. He keeps standing, he doesn't get taken down easily, and he's way faster than Drakkar Klose. If Drakkar Klose is going to put his hands up like, what, come fight me? Landon Vannata is going to come fight you. You know, he's not running away from nothing. He knows he needs his back's against the wall. He looked terrible in his fight with Taymor. So now's the time to put up or shut up. He's a young guy. He trains with absolutely elite guys. We saw what he can do when you don't expect nothing. That Tony Ferguson fight was a huge eye-opener. But he's kind of he's largely struggled since that fight to recapture some of that magic. And here's his chance. Go in there against Drakkar Klose. The one thing is, Klose is very durable. So I know we're looking for finishes. We're looking for beatdowns, sustained beatdowns with lots of output, lots of takedowns.
Klose likes to slow the pace down and make it, like if he's doing a lot of that cage work is 0 points for both guys.
You do not want Drakkar Klose. Don't be tempted by the $7,200. If he wins,
he's got to land takedowns on a guy who we already said is a good wrestler to be viable. And Vannata, if it is a lot of cage work and kind of dirty, like I think Vannata's going to win. Because Klose will probably do nothing against the cage again, and he will complain and say that he should have won the fight. But that's not what wins fights in this day and age. It used to. That octagon control used to be. But it's like if you're doing nothing against the cage like that, judges don't score for you anymore.
No, dude. I was just gonna say I've noticed this before. Okay, let's say Drakkar Klose holds Vannata. Let's say 1 minute is range. Yeah. Not much going on. 3 minutes is Drakkar Klose pinning Landon Vannata against the cage, and a couple knee strikes here, little dirty ball, but nothing really is happening.
That's and then Vannata lands a couple good strikes.
No, dude, he throws one spinning back kick that grazes you, and the fans go, whoa, and the refs are and the judge is like, oh fuck it, dude, Landon Vannata. Yeah. I see this shit happen. Flash. They used to call it the Leonard Garcia effect. Just wing some shit and doesn't actually have to land. As long as people ooh and ah, you'll probably get the decision. But yeah, that's worst case for him. Worst case is that he has to take a greasy decision. Best case is that he goes out there and just keeps the fight standing, lands his strikes, get the victory. Again, this is a tough card for DK, and I only say that because there's not that wrestler that's going to get 6 or 7 takedowns.
No, it's not.
And there's not a bunch of fights.
There are some wrestlers, but they're against other wrestlers. Yeah, so you're just oh, the wrestling could be negated or...
No, dude, you go to Atlantic City or you go to Singapore, it's like, yo, these motherfuckers are suspect, right? But these guys are all world class. They all know how to wrestle. They all know how to grapple. They're all pretty good strikers.
Don't say world class so quickly, because next up, we have the cranberry sauce fight of the night.
Oh, for those people, I haven't heard that in a long time.
For those people who are new to the program, this was an old thing on our same show with a different name before. And cranberry sauce is like Thanksgiving. You got the turkey, you got the stuffing, you got the gravy, you got the bread, the mashed potatoes. You can even have spinach and turnips. I'm not the biggest fan of that. Cranberry sauce could be on the table, but if it wasn't on the table, nobody would really miss it. Mm-hmm. So that's basically what Jamie Moyle versus Emily Whitmire is to this card. Nobody really cares that this fight is on the card.
It's there. Maybe I'll have some. Maybe I won't. Won't really change my life.
Frankly, we don't even have to get too much into this. Just $9,200 for Moyle on DraftKings. It's just I'll just spend up $1 and get $100 and get Francis Ngannou. Minus 200 on the betting line. I'll pick my poison elsewhere. Emily Whitmire, she looked awful and got completely starched by Hantana De La Rosa in her debut on the last TUF finale. Wasn't very impressed. Pretty low level. Moyle should be able to win here and win pretty decisively, but I want no part of this fight.
Yeah, I think Moyle kicks her ass, but I also thought that Molly McCann wasn't such a can. So what do I know? These tough bums against other season tough bums, like, man, anything can happen. But saying that, Jamie Moyle should roll in this fight.
Yeah.
Like, Emily Whitmire, one thing about her is that she cannot grapple. When she was on the show, she got exposed very quickly. Roxanne Modafferi beat her 4:59 in the first round. She said, no mas. And then Montana De La Rosa, same thing, submits her in the first round. I mean, I don't know why she's even in the UFC, but she is. And Jamie Moyle's a girl that's at least earned it a little bit more.
Sure.
She looked a little bit better on her season of The Ultimate Fighter.
9,200 though.
9,200 is a big issue.
Minus 200, maybe you can parlay it.
Well, here's the thought process on it. I'll tell you the thought process on it. If you knew for sure that she was going to win in the first round, because that's she could definitely do that. She could. Whitmire's been finished twice in the first round. She is not a grappler, and we're going to talk about another little thing that is a big glaring issue for me in a second. But if Jamie Moyle, if you knew she was going to get the first round finish,
I'd play her because nobody's going to be rostering her.
That's the thing, is that everyone's going to be on Francis Ngannou for the extra $100. Of
course. Everyone's
Everyone's going to be on the higher options. Nobody's on Jamie Moyle. And if she goes out there and gets the first round finish, which is a possibility, and you're a very few percentile that own her, and you're in that percentile.
Maybe like 10%, like max 10% max.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be very good, and that's what you gotta. That's what you're banking on. Now, Jamie Moyle
I feel as
hasn't.
though we had the same argument when we were talking about Frankie Saenz in his last fight. He was around this price, and we're just like, I don't know. I usually just basically, if I have that feeling
I thought
about
Henry
it,
Briones might be able to pull one out, but I mean, it was a pretty terrible.
if I have
fight.
that feeling about it, I just avoid these types of spots. I don't think that this is. I don't think this ends up on an optimal lineup. Hey,
you know what?
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Well, I guess we're going to obviously have to wait and see, but I have a feeling that Jamie Moyle goes out there and gets that first round finish. Jamie Moyle is from Las Vegas. She's training in Las Vegas full time. She's a syndicate MMA girl. She looked okay on The Ultimate Fighter. She had a first round submission over Alyssa Cron, Canadian. So at least we know she has a little bit of grappling in her back pocket. In her last fight, she went the distance with Viviane Pereira. Before that, at least she's fought some better opponents, right? She's a small, stocky, strong girl, feisty. Gets in the pocket, closes that distance because she doesn't have a whole lot of range. But she can make this an ugly fight. She can get the takedown. If she gets the takedown, she gets on top of Emily Whitmire. She starts feeding her, some elbows. She mounts this girl. She takes her back. Emily Whitmire might just give it up. And anyways, this is what I want to talk about Emily Whitmire and why this would maybe a very good fade, actually. So she's on The Ultimate Fighter, season 26. She takes on Roxanne Modafferi. She loses at 4:59 of the first round. They talk to her after the fight. She says, oh, thank God they stopped that. I did not want to fight a second round.
Yeah.
That's a fucking coward move, man.
Yeah.
So this is a girl who quit because Roxanne Modafferi was on top of her. Then gets a fight in the UFC where she lasts a little over 2 minutes. And now she's getting Jamie Moyle, who's arguably better than her last opponent. So
Emily Whitmire is not your sleeper that you'll be listening in the YouTube comment section here.
We're going to have to wait till see on Saturday. But if I was Paul Shaughnessy on a keto diet, I might be tempted to say Emily Whitmire is the worst fighter.
Whoa. You're not allowed to steal my gimmick.
All I'm saying. So,
right,
I don't know. Well, we're going to have to wait and see what happens Saturday. But I'm just not high on her. So I would say Jamie Moyle, the minus 200. I'm going to take a shot at that. Try to parlay it a little bit anyways. And then the 9,200. I don't love it. But, dude, honestly, if you even just play one roster, if you're going to play 10 teams or how many? I know some people play 20, 30, however many. If you play Francis Ngannou on a bunch of them, yeah, a lot of people are going to do that. If you're going to play a Stipe Miocic, if you're going to play a Michael Chiesa or a Paulo Costa, play one with Jamie Moyle. And you know what? If it costs you $2 or $3 and you're that pissed off, give me a holler, and I hopefully won't pull a Ben the Better and screw you over.
Wow. Shots fired. Let's move on to Friday night's card. We have the TUF 27 finale. Israel Adesanya taking on Brad Tavares. No DraftKings pricing at the time of recording here. Adesanya is minus 130. Lots of hype on him. Taking on Brad Tavares, who kind of historically just kind of underrated. Very, very solid fighter. This is a big step up for Adesanya in general. I saw people getting on Brad Tavares is like plus 150, which was like a ludicrous line earlier in the week. Plus 110, like I still believe in Adesanya, and I think we're going to see a lot of improvements from him. He's obviously at a good Kiwi camp in New Zealand there with Dan Hooker. We're seeing improvements from these guys, and I think that the game is going to come together. But we can't look past the fact that last fight against Marvin Vettori is in that round 3, he got pretty tired. He was taken down.
Yeah, it's a work in progress.
He's a work in progress, and that fight wasn't too long ago. I think the UFC wants to see Adesanya win. The guy's super charismatic, very exciting kind of style. Just a brilliant striker, frankly, in general. Not a power puncher, more of a volume, and just he'll tear you down, he'll hit you to the body, and over time, it's like a death by 1,000 cuts type of style from him, right? I'll be cheering for Adesanya. I don't really want anything. I can't fault people for the plus 150 I saw earlier in the week on Brad Tavares. Like, I think this is a pick'em, and you're going to give that type of price, then good on you to get that price. But at plus 110, I'm going to stay away from Tavares. I'll be cheering for Adesanya.
Yeah, I can see Brad Tavares getting the job done. I mean, he's as gatekeeper as you get in the UFC. A durable guy, generally goes the distance. That's another thing with this fight. A lot of people are saying, like, how is this going to go the distance? Like, it could be one of those fights that's really not as exciting as it is on paper. Brad Tavares routinely goes to decision. That last fight with Jocko was the abnormality with this guy, because generally he's not finishing opponents. Phil Baroni and Krzysztof Jocko, that about sums up the guys that he's finished at the UFC level. And meanwhile, with Israel Adesanya, I mean, everyone talks about how good his striker he is and how he's knocking guys out. But, you know, Marvin Vettori lived to tell the tale. It wasn't like it was a whitewash. In fact, yeah, Vettori looked good in that 3rd round. That was a fight that Adesanya didn't look great in. But those are going to be those learning experience fights that you're going to have to take and move up. The thing with Brad Tavares is, I think with Israel Adesanya, take the guy down. Take the guy down, tire him out, wear on him. Don't let him stand at range with you. Don't let him throw this flashy stuff. Don't let him get any type of comfort zone. Brad Tavares is going to have to close that distance. The thing with Brad Tavares is that he likes kind of standing in front of you too, kind of having a kickboxing match. That's worked for times with him, but also at the same time, Tim Boetsch and Robert Whittaker both shut the guy's lights off with one good strike. Yep. And that's something that Adesanya could do. If this is a 3-round fight, I'm saying Adesanya. 5-round fight, very interesting. Plus 150, I would take Brad Tavares. Plus 110, I am not taking Brad Tavares. Yep. So this is probably going to be a pass to me. Should be exciting, though.
Yep, I agree. We got Joe Gianetti taking on Mike Trizano. Gianetti minus 155. Trizano is plus 135 we got.
So I watched a bit of Ultimate Fighter. I mean, I tried to keep up with it as much as possible because Brad Katona, I mean, the guy's the man, Canadian, Manitoba. We know he's in the finals. We were just waiting on his opponent. That's the problem.
Okay, cool.
So the opponent's going to go tonight.
I haven't been watching the Ultimate Fighter at all. That's why I said that.
Yeah, no, Katona won last week, and so he's in 2 weeks ago. He looked good. Anyways, he's in through. Tyler Diamond fights tonight. He's going to get through as well. And it'll likely be Katona versus Tyler Diamond. I'm thinking they might actually add a second fight to this card. I mean, it's just like a...
They'll probably add the 2 losers.
No, the problem with that is the 2 losers already fought. So I don't think they'll do it again. But this Bryce Mitchell, who Brad Katona beat a couple weeks ago, guy looks good, man. 23 years old, rangy,
he's
very
kind of like,
entertaining.
I think I've seen him
Hillbilly.
before. Hillbilly guy.
Hillbilly.
I think he was training with Sarah Longo for a bit.
Yeah,
he's buddies with Al. I've seen him. Yeah, I know who
he's a very entertaining guy.
And he's got potential.
And I think for sure, 23 years old, I think for sure you put him on the card. The thing is that if they put him on the card and he takes on that Jay Cuxanello, then they've already fought. It makes no sense. If he was to fight one of the other guys from the show, they would have announced it already. So I think Tyler Diamond wins tonight. However, if Tyler Diamond was to lose tonight, then that would explain it. Jay would fight Brad in the finals, and Tyler Diamond would take on a guy like Bryce Mitchell. But it's a featherweight and a lightweight tournament. 3 of the lightweight matchups, there's the finals, and 2 other lightweight matchups are on this card. There is no featherweight matchups on this card outside of the final, which will be announced. So I just have a feeling that it's only at it's a 10-fight card right now. If you're to add 1 more fight, it's an 11-fight card, sure. If you're to add 2 more fights, that rounds it up at a 12-fight card. Makes sense. I guess we'll have to see. Nothing's been announced. Yeah, no, as far as this fight goes, Joe Gianetti, he won both of his fights by first-round submission. He looks very competent. Nothing against Mike Trizano, which they're both young. They're both, very inexperienced in their careers so far. And with Trizano, I mean, Trizano looked good in his first fight against Tylan Clark. I thought Tylan Clark was one of the worst guys on the show, him and maybe Delaney Perry, but I'm a big Delaney Perry fan, so I was like, whatever. But it wasn't great. And then his next fight against John Gunther. John Gunther got back into the competition after losing his opening round. It went 3 rounds. It wasn't like a phenomenal performance by any stretch, and now he's in the final against Gianetti. Gianetti, it's hard to gauge with him because he beat John Gunther, the same guy that ended up getting through. He beat him with the first round submission, like nothing. He took on Alan Zuniga in the second second round. Zuniga was at least a 12-0 prospect out of Costa Rica. You know, at least certainly on paper looked like he'd be half decent.
We'll talk about him later on.
We're going to have to talk about Gunther as well. But he just dices him in the first round as well. He looks very competent. And then one thing that I always kind of find interesting is, like, let's say you or I don't really know all that much about these guys, right?
Let's just say that we don't know.
Let's say we don't know much about these guys.
Imagine that.
I know. I always looking back at the draft order from The Ultimate Fighter, because Cormier and Miocic spent time with these guys in the gym. Watch these guys. They had to go through grappling rounds. They had to go through striking rounds. You know, you interview these guys, you talk to them, and all this and that, and you try to get a gauge of where they're at. And Mike Trizano was one of the first lightweights picked versus Gianetti, who was like, I think he was like the third or fourth guy picked. Sure. So they obviously saw something in Trizano that they liked more, but Gianetti's the guy that's looked better in the actual competition. So I'm going to have to say he gets the job done, and we'll see what happens. I'm not huge on it. I'll be on Brad Katona, but this one I could really care less.
We have Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres taking on Martin Bravo, -135 Caceres, +115 Bravo. Who you like?
I mean, both guys are going to fall in that category of untrustworthy. With Bruce Leroy, I mean, he's on and he is off. And he seems to be more... He's off a lot more often. Yeah, he's off more often than he should be. I mean, they've given this guy, just for like sake of argument, they've given Bruce Leroy the easiest run out of anybody who's fought in the UFC.
Yeah, he's shot the bed in a lot of situations.
Oh my God, has he shit the bed in a lot of situations?
Like situations where you...
Bruce like
Leroy
this
is
guy.
also always a guy who kind of shows up when you don't expect him to show up. And he's a guy who shits the bed when it's like, when they give him guys that you think on paper he was supposed to roll against. Like he's got good mobility. He's never had power. He's got decent submissions if he gets to your back.
He's a crafty grappler. Yeah. He's an opportunistic guy. His striking, it's quirky. You don't really see it. It's hard to time. His timing's different. He's got good kicks.
That's why him versus Yair was such a good fight.
Yeah, and you know what? It's a split decision. And it's a fight that goes 5 rounds, and it's a fight that Bruce Leroy came to dance. The thing is that outside of that fight, it's hard to really pick out moments where it's like, oh man, you look really good. Dude, remember when you kicked the shit out of Cole Miller? Yeah, everybody kicks the shit out of Cole Miller. Was that really a great performance for him? No, he's just kind of going through the motions. His first 5 opponents in the UFC, okay? Mackin Semrenzer, Jimmy Hedis, Cole Escovedo, Edwin Figueroa, Demasio Page. All 5 guys are cut.
Yep.
He actually lost 3 of those first 5 fights, right? Beyond that, Manatubu Tezuka, cut. Roland Delorme, cut. Masanori Kanahara, cut. Francisco Rivera Jr. Is he even still alive? Where's Francisco Rivera at these days? Masio Follin.
I think he got steroid banned.
Masio Follin, Cole Miller, Rolando Dai. These are the guys he's beating. This is the lowest of the low. And then Gwen Wang beats him, for Christ's sake, in his last fight. Close enough fight. The guy does have now he's 20-1. Good looking record. But again, you gotta look good against these guys. And he just goes through the motions. He's got a good chin. He does have a really good chin. Rivera completely blasted him with smithereens. But outside of that, he rolls with the punches pretty good. He's always smiling. I think he's going to get the victory here over Martin Bravo. But if Martin Bravo just does enough standing to outpoint this guy and then give him the decision, I'm not going to be surprised. No. I can't go in as if Bruce Leroy's the underdog and I think, hey, maybe, this will be his day. Maybe he picks it up for -135. I don't know. And as far as the DraftKings goes, like if he does beat Martin Bravo, maybe he ices Bravo quick like we saw against Bravo's last fight against Claudio Puelles. He beat Claudio Puelles and then lost against Banadai. Maybe he gets kicked in the head and knocked down. Bruce Leroy gets the victory. But for the most part, like, Bruce Leroy is just tagging you up, getting points. He's not a bad wrestler. He's an MMA lab guy. He's crafty, durable. I think that's his path to victory here. I think he gets the win, but I'm done laying any type of money on Bruce Leroy.
We got Barb Honchak taking on Roxanne Modafferi. Barb Honchak is -175 favorite. Modafferi is +155. Barb Honchak was this division basically started 10 years too late for Barb Honchak, who was the most dominant 125-pounder.
3 years too late for Barb Honchak. Okay, whatever. She was at least the best in the world for a little bit.
For quite a bit.
Like Jessica Aguilar. What happened to that?
Fair enough.
Now she's got chapped lips.
Maybe Modafferi will be an interesting play on DraftKings. Prices haven't been released for this card. I could see playing her because I think she's probably safe. Like against Nico Montano. Nico Montano ended up scoring just a boatload against her. But Modafferi in a loss scored like, in a 5-round loss, scored like 70 points.
That's 5 rounds.
Yeah, but 70 points from a $7,300 fighter on your roster. It's just like...
Fair, but the fighter...
I made money that day, even though that was my big losing. That was my big losers. Somebody who got 70 points. Yeah. Like, I'll take that all day of the week, right? Especially cash, that type of thing. That makes sense. But it'd be a cold day in Missouri before I ever lay money on Roxanne Modafferi. Anybody who's listened to the show for a long time,
they know.
She's not good. She's super sloppy. She's improved a lot.
She has improved a lot. She is very crafty, but she's like, the worst athlete.
This is a low level of MMA that we're talking about. She has improved. She was a bit like insanely bad before, and like her athleticism is probably the nut low of all people. Like her and Bojan Miocic would be probably the least two athletes to ever step foot inside.
She's the worst athlete. How many fighters experience 5-fight losing streaks and then end up making the UFC after that? There's just no depth. She was a name. She's the Happy Warrior. If you're not just if you're a fight fan, you're an MMA fan. You're not just start watching in 2015 or 2014 or Conor McGregor's my favorite fighter. Like, if you've been following this sport for a long time, Roxanne Modafferi, bigger legend, my book, than Barb Honchak. This girl's done it all, man. She fought in Japan back when nobody was fighting Japan, especially not women. She fought the best in the world. She fought everywhere. How many women fighters have 30 fights? She's a pioneer, and she's a girl that's gotten better and better. She beat Valerie Letourneau on The Ultimate Fighter, right, to get into the house. This girl is not that bad, in that she has so much more experience than everybody else.
And heart.
Lots of heart. But we talk about this oftentimes, is that because the divisions are new and the pools are low, the talent's not quite there. It's getting better. It's getting better, but it's not quite there. A savvy veteran is still like, remember back in the UFC when it was like Rich Clemente and Drew Fickett, Joe Dirksen? Are they that good? Probably not. They have so much experience. They can teach you a lesson or two. Eves Edwards KO'd Jeremy Stevens with an elbow to the face. How? Savvy veterans can pull one out. I feel like she's like that. I feel like she can, if you're no good on the ground, if you're, just like we were just talking about, Emily Whitmire, she can expose those people. She looked good on The Ultimate Fighter because it was a really low level. She's taking on mid-class opponents at best, and she's looking good. She's not going to have that in Barb Honchak. Barb Honchak is a savvy veteran. Barb Honchak, her highest level was higher than Roxanne Modafferi's level. Absolutely. And yes, the game has passed her by. Yes, she is not the top flyweight in the world anymore. Yes, she would struggle mightily to probably go 2 rounds against a girl like Valentina Shevchenko. But this is a fight that is extremely winnable for her. Barb Honchak, -175 in.
Boom. We got Julian, the Cuban Missile Crisis. Marquez taking on Alessio Di Chirico. Marquez is -165 favorite to Chirico's +145. We got.
This is going to sound extremely childish. I hate myself for saying it. And you at home will also think, man, Cody's kind of a bitch here. I hate Marvin Vettori. I hate Alessio Di Chirico.
You just hate Italians.
No. Kind of. Not because he's Italian, but his last fight, okay? He beats Oluwole Bembase. Possibly the worst fight I've ever seen in my life. Has a great finish on the end of it.
But it was really ugly. It was really ugly up until that point.
Such a bad fight. Here's the issue. He's got a translator, right? His guy's post-fight octagon interview. They say something to him. He says, you're going to have to go back and watch it, because literally he says, "Muscusi boopity boppity." And his translator's like, I can't translate that. He just made it up. Boopity boppity, not a real fucking thing. I hate this guy. I don't know what it is. I hate this guy. I hope he gets killed here. I absolutely hope that Julian Marquez tears this guy's head off. I hope he gets cut shortly thereafter. I never want to see him fight ever again. Every fight I've ever seen him in has been a terrible, horrendous experience. He is extremely boring. He is absolutely dead to me. I don't say it very often, Paul.
Wow. I really, honestly...
This man is dead to me. I hope he loses, and I hope he is never the same again.
Really didn't see this coming.
I know. And like I said, very childish. He said "scoozy boopity boppity" on a post-fight. Who cares, Cody? I care, Paul.
All right, so Marquez for the...
Marquez is
he's a
bigger.
sloppy fighter.
Yeah,
he's an
sloppy.
entertaining fighter.
He's sloppy, but he's big and he's strong. And at least in his last fight, it showed like, damn, maybe if he's not getting, like if he's getting the first round finish really quick, knocks out Matt Hamill prior to coming to the UFC, it's like, damn, this guy's got some serious power. Kombachi America, jeez, that's pretty low level to be fighting at. But it doesn't look bad, right? Training in Las Vegas, Syndicate MMA, another one of these guys that's essentially local to this Las Vegas market, training with a bunch of guys. He's very strong, he's very powerful. He's going to be hard to get down. He's going to be hard to stand in front of. He is going to gas out more than likely. Licio Di Chirico doesn't have a bad gas tank. I can see this fight being very uneventful for the first 2 rounds, and maybe Di Chirico turns it on a little bit and is able to take that 3rd round. But I think Marquez does take the first 2 rounds just based on that sheer size, the ability to land the more meaningful shots, close the distance, back this guy up, keep him on his back foot initially, and then if you do tire, just survive the 3rd round, no big deal. Marquez would have learned a lot from that last fight. He took time off after it, still a young guy, still training, still developing, still getting better, but it was a good gut check performance to be like, oh man, you're not always going to have your way every second of every round against some of these, next level guys. So I think Julian Marquez does get the job done, and I don't know why I hate Di Chirico. I don't know what it is.
I haven't seen you like this since Carlos Esparza.
You ever see people sometimes who are like, man, I hate this guy's face. And you're like, you hate this guy's face? What's wrong with you? Something's wrong with me. I don't know what it is. I don't hate the guy's face. Something about him. Something about him. No, he's a good looking guy, I'm sure. It's just hate him. I don't know what it is. Do not like him.
Montana De La Rosa is -175 favorite, taking on Rachel Ostovich, who can be had for +155.
Talking about faces that people like, Rachel Ostovich.
Everyone, the MMA community loves Rachel Ostovich. But
how could you not?
Good looks, and a banging body don't necessarily win you fights inside of the octagon.
This is true.
Montana De La Rosa was a high level, or I believe a collegiate wrestler. If not that, then a high-end high school wrestler. Good wrestling chops and good submission skills here. So I think, and that's kind of Rochelle Ostovich's skill set too, is she kind of likes to grapple. I think it's going to be very, very ugly between the two of them if this is on the feet. But I would lean towards Montana De La Rosa to get the W here.
Yeah, I actually like Montana De La Rosa. I also... Probably a hot take here. I think he's better looking than Rachel Ostovich.
Whoa.
I think this girl's good looking.
Did not see that coming.
Yeah, I honestly think she's good looking. You're 100% right. She's a collegiate wrestler. She's
an All-American, I believe.
She got
I heard
recruited.
it, but I just didn't want to be...
You know who she got...
I backtracked because I was like, I don't know if that's 100%.
You know who she got recruited by to come to MMA?
Who?
Guess.
Colby Covington.
Team Takedown.
Okay.
Team Takedown likes to take some of these wrestlers and hopefully give them some MMA skills.
Yep.
She had a terrible beginning to her pro career, lost her first 2 fights. I think that's why when you look at her record now, 8-4, doesn't look great. Did lose the first 2 fights. Those probably should have been amateur fights, had very little experience coming through. The thing that really jumps off at Montana De La Rosa for me, only 23 years old, so again, she's going to be getting better, going to be making improvements. I think it's her husband, it might just be her boyfriend, Mark De La Rosa. No, it's her husband, yeah. She's De La Rosa, so she's got the last name. He also fights in the UFC, not great, and he lost to Tim Elliott, but that's a tough task for pretty much anybody. So your husband's as an MMA fighter, fights in the UFC. You're
it's
an
a
MMA
fighting
fighter.
family.
It's a fighting family, right? There's a girl that's wrestled for a long
Ostovich's
time.
family is a fighting family, though.
Yeah, Robbie Ostovich also fights. I think that at 23, she's in the right place. She's going to be getting better. Texas going to have a good little support system around her. Hopefully, Team Takedown. Obviously, not what they're used to be, but what they were good at was taking young green fighters, giving them some skills. They just couldn't really take it to that next level. Luckily for her, she's not really at the next level. She's at that beginning stage of her career.
In this division, you don't need to be at that level. You just have to have one thing that you're very, very skilled at.
Yeah, but one thing that I really want to just give her props for is like this girl clearly, she's a girl, so she can't have actual balls. She got balls. She fought Mackenzie Dern back when nobody wanted to fight Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern was 1-0, coming off an ACC victory. Nobody wanted to fight her. But she took that fight. The very next fight, coming off of this loss, in which she was submitted in the first round by Mackenzie Dern, she fights Cynthia Calvillo. Like, she is down to fight. She is down to fight the best girls. She does not care. And that kind of attitude, being that willingness, that you got that confidence in yourself, good wrestler, comes onto the Ultimate Fighter, gets the initial win over Ariel Beck, falls to Nico Montano, but I mean, Nico Montano ended up winning the season and ended up winning the whole show. And then I thought she looked decent enough against Christina Marks, a 16-fight veteran, submitting her in the first round in her official UFC debut. Now she draws this fight against Rachel Ostovich. Ostovich is, I think, the better grappler, strictly jiu-jitsu. I think she's got better submission game. However, if she's just going to be on her back throwing up submissions against the better wrestler that's on top of her, I think De La Rosa gets the job done. And so I'm going to take me some Montana De La Rosa.
Violent Bob Ross. Luis Pena takes on Richie Smullen. Pena, at least at the time of this recording, is the biggest favorite on the cards. Obviously, at least one, maybe two fights that haven't been added, but Pena minus 360, Smullen plus 300. Violent Bob Ross rolls here.
You know what? It's hard to say he rolls here. I think he definitely gets the victory. I guess that's supposedly rolling, but minus 360 for a guy that's 4-0. Oh, I don't know, man. Like, that's not great here. Richie Smullen is an SBG Ireland guy. He's one of Conor McGregor's training partners. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much the only reason I bet you he's on this card.
Let's look at that gym, though. Not much success out of that gym besides Conor McGregor.
Yeah, no, 100%. I actually had
not the best winning record. When you really look at it.
I was thinking the other day, I was like, remember like all the SBG, like the old school guys? It's like, oh man, Aisling Daly, oh yeah, she fanned out. Oh my God, Paddy Hallahan, oh yeah, he was a fan out. I mean, he had the, you know, he's a hemophiliac, but like really, he wasn't all that good. Cathal Pendrick, good thing he was a hemophiliac because he took some ass kickings, but he just fanned out. So it's like, okay, well, those guys all fanned out.
There's James Gallagher in Bellator. He's got some potential.
Fair, but it's like, oh, dude, Chris Fields, man, he's really good. No, he fanned out. He wasn't very good. Owen Roddy, who's now the head coach, yeah, well, he wasn't all that good. What about some of the guys that just weren't homebred from SBG? My boy Hakeem Dawodu. Shit, that guy was undefeated before he got there. What the hell happened there? Amir Khani's there. He won his last fight against Jason Knight, but that guy's not as good as anybody assumed he might be down the road. He's literally made pretty much zero progression in his game. You know what they got? They got a goddamn golden ticket in Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor put them on the map, and that's the only... Unless you are a rabid Cage Warriors fan, you did not know who this gym was.
Makwan Amirkhani has been... I would say he's made some improvements.
What improvements has he made?
He won his last fight.
Yeah, but still, is he a better striker than he was 2 years ago? Is he a better wrestler than he was 2 years ago? Is he doing anything better? He's definitely not a better
wrestler than he was 2 years ago.
No, he is not any better at all than he was 2 years ago. And I actually see a couple other guys, same thing. They go to the gym, and I think it's like, cool, you know, Conor's here.
There's a gorilla on the wall.
Oh, and John Kavanagh is one of the best coaches. I bet you he's a fine coach. This is no disrespect to John Kavanagh, a fine coach. But is he any better than Matt Hume or John Crouch or Eric Del Fiero or any of the half dozen coaches at ATT like Mike Brown or Dean Thompson?
I wouldn't even put him in the same category, to be honest.
No, but he got one guy that talked a lot of shit.
He gets put in the same category because he gets put in the same category because of popularity. It's a popularity contest.
Yeah, that's all it is. And you know something? And people will say, "Oh,
John Crouch doesn't even want to be recognized for anything."
And people will backtrack and they'll say, "Well, I never said that. I never said that."
John Crouch kicked Mackenzie Dern off of his team because he didn't.
Yeah, this guy's a no-nonsense approach
care.
kind
He
of guy.
doesn't care whatsoever about the popularity
Damn right.
contest.
But you'll remember this because we've followed the sport for a long time, but also we had to follow all this stupid shit when we were at Fight Network, right? You have to hear comments, you have to watch countdowns, you have to watch preview shows. People believed Edmund Taverdian was a fine coach. Travis Brown went to the gym. Jake Ellenberger left Alliance. He left Kings. Or he was out Rain MMA with Mark Munoz on this. He left. He went there. Clay Guida left Jackson's MMA to go there. People believed Edmund Taverdian was a fine coach. And then
Ronda got exposed. The L's basically just started coming after that. Ronda got exposed after all of the other guys just did not improve, got worse, started losing.
Now, there is no doubt in my mind. John Kavanagh is 5 times the coach of Edmund Taverdian. There is no debate there for me. I'm just saying is that to say, oh, Richie Smullen's an SBG guy, it's like, who gives a fuck, man? Yeah. If anything, that means nothing to me anymore. You want to know something? This is important to me. Going back to the big pay-per-view card, okay? Max Holloway has a team, a small team of guys that he grew up with. He trained from the get-go. That's his team.
Gracie Technics, I believe it's called.
And Brian Ortega basically the same thing. He's had the same boxing coach for a long time. He trains at the Gracie Academy. That's
boxing
big.
coach is like his life coach. Like he took him out of
Yeah.
a situation that like Ortega was going down a wrong path.
But it is such a nice breath of fresh air it's not AKA, ATT, Alliance, Kings MMA,
but these guys'
Jackson
gyms are
Winklejohn,
surrounded
TriStar.
100% around them.
It's that special attention. That special attention, you don't need 100 training partners. You don't need 10 different coaches. You can get to the highest level by being loyal to the gym that got you to where you were, you know, or that where you went. And I mean, with Robert Follis, I'm not going to get into this, but Robert Follis is a guy that was let down by the game. You spend all this time building guys up, and they just leave you. But when you're at Team Quest and you're at Extreme Couture, I mean, that's the MO for those teams, right? They just spit fighters out. It's a revolving door. Guys come and go. It is what it is. Those guys, you stay with the people that are good to you and true to you, you can attain the highest level. But anyways, going back to Richie Smolin, I actually did a lot of Richie Smolin tape research for no reason. Not that long ago, he had a draw against Riz McKee, who fought in the Cage Warriors card on the weekend. Richie Smolin is so one-dimensional, and he's a wrestler, right? The guy just goes in there. He said he got
he's
into...
a wrestler.
Man,
honestly, I haven't watched the show, so like, he's a wrestler from SBG.
Dude, he got into MMA. Basically, he's like
Prove me wrong.
He's like a bricklayer in Ireland.
That doesn't end well.
No, because he's basically taking down European guys who absolutely have no ability to do anything, right? I mean, it's pretty simple as that. Now, Richie Smolin, I believe he's the guy that had the leg cramp, right? That's a bitch move. Let me just confirm that because it's a hilarious story. But basically, Richie Smolin, it's going to tell me in a second here. He was supposed to fight in The Ultimate Fighter, and I don't know why it's not.
And then he didn't.
No, he had a leg cramp, I'm pretty sure.
Whatever. Honestly, we're not picking Richie Smolin here, so let's just move on.
Yeah, you're right. Anyways, well, Richie Smolin's a one-dimensional grappler. He tries to get the fight to the ground. I guess with Luis Pena, Violent Bob Ross. Violent Bob Ross, they don't say nothing about his wrestling background, but he said he got into MMA because one of his buddies at the gym was training for a good wrestler, and they brought him in specifically as the good wrestler. He's initially from St. Charles MMA, basically, in Missouri, and he was the high school wrestling coach at his former high school. So the guy's very well-versed. 6'3" for the weight class, very tall. Now, tall guys generally don't have a great center of gravity, so it's easy to take them down. But here's a guy that's wrestled his whole life, has leverage. Leverage as a tall guy is huge. If you know how to wrestle, you know how to change that base. He's not going to get taken by
John Jones.
Smolin.
John Jones is a super tall guy, and usually, but you saw against Daniel Cormier, it's like he was able to take Daniel Cormier down, an Olympic wrestler. So if you're actually a good wrestler at that height, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get dominated against wrestlers all the time.
No, absolutely. You can. There's a guy out of Ontario, Chris Prickett, same thing. He's just a tall guy, and then he would go and he would compete against smaller, stockier wrestlers. It's like leverage is a huge thing in sports, in most sports actually. And when you figure out leverage in wrestling, they can't get you off the feet. They can't hit you with these same takedowns that they're using on other guys. It's hard to disrupt that base, so to speak. They're fine, and that's the thing with Bob Ross is that he was in St. Charles. He left Missouri. He went to AKA. That's where he's at now. The guy's very tall for the weight class. As I mentioned earlier, he had a picture with him and Gokhan Saki. I mean, he looks as big as Gokhan Saki, obviously skinnier. But, I mean, Bob Ross probably just keeps his fight standing, keeps it at distance, pieces him up. I'm not sold on Smolin at all. Again, Smolin probably would not be on this card if it wasn't for the fact that he was friends with one very notorious person.
Zuniga versus Gunter, I guess. Alan Zuniga, John Gunter. Basically a pick 'em. Who you got?
Yeah, Gunter, again, very surprised that he's even on this card, considering that he lost in both of his fights on The Ultimate Fighter. He's an MMA lab guy. I mean, surely just somebody to throw in there. I kind of feel he can get the victory over Zuniga. I'm just not all that impressed with Zuniga in that he's 12-0. He's going to have the better record. He's probably one of the more experienced guys that was physically on the show. It's just he's fought a lot of low-level guys, and now he's coming in here with Gunter. Gunter's going to have a good amount of time to train for this. Actually, Gunter, sorry, I don't know why I screwed that up. I know exactly why he's on this card. He's not an MMA lab guy. He's a strong style fight team guy with Stipe Miocic. So this is easy. Hey, it's Stipe's buddy. He was on The Ultimate Fighter. He at least somehow got to the next round because he got brought back as an injury replacement.
Sure.
Stipe's going to fight on the pay-per-view on the Saturday. Hey,
Stipe's just like, hey guys, give him 12 grand. If he wins, great. If he loses, then they don't necessarily keep these guys on the card. These guys, just because they get this one fight doesn't mean that they're going to get another fight. Like they give you sometimes off of these Ultimate Fighters, like you get your one shot. If he wins, he's going to get another fight. Losers usually don't. So no, either way.
Yeah, exactly. And then with Zuniga was supposed to fight Richie Smolin. But Richie Smolin cramped up like a bitch and came out of the fight, so he got a bye. And then in the second round of the fight, he takes on Joe Gianetti, and he gets submitted in the first round. So, like, yeah, he was 12-0 coming onto the show, got a bye, and then got submitted in the first round. Gunther, he's lost both of his fights on the show, but prior to coming to that, his last 2 opponents in professional MMA combined for an 11-0 record. I think one was 4-0, one was 7-0, so that's not all that bad. He's a guy, he's a training partner with Stipe. Stipe's getting ready. Whole gym's got that feel to it. LeBron just left town. We need some other Cleveland Knights to step up here. So, yeah, I think Gunther gets the victory. But again, would I put money on it? Not likely. I mean, I'm a degenerate, but should the average person put money on it? No, don't.
Matt Bessette -170, Steve Peterson +150. I like Steve Ocho Peterson.
Oh, do I ever? I like
the guy's a damn warrior. He's gonna go out there. He's gonna fight. He's probably gonna get bloody. Bessette,
I would imagine
Bessette actually showed pretty well for himself against Barzola.
I thought so, yeah.
In
absolutely.
that fight.
But that was Barzola giving him a chance.
But Barzola was being an idiot. Like, he just wasn't going for the takedowns. I owned a whole bunch of Barzola on DraftKings. It was just like, he got a takedown or 2 in round 1. He's just like, all right, this is what I'm. And round 2, he did none of it. And then, like, in round 3, he's just like, oh, I may have to secure. It's like he was trying to get some rounds in, that type of thing against Bessette. He let him hang around. Made it. I think Barzola, if he had stuck to his game plan, probably could have taken down Bessette and controlled him a lot more than he did. So Bessette looking good in that spot. I don't know if I completely agree with it. Steve Ocho Peterson, I can't off the top of my head even remember who he fought. We've been talking about 22 fights here so far, but it was a war as was expected. You look at this guy in the regional scene, every single one of his fights is a war. This is a fight that I would target on DraftKings. We obviously don't have prices, but you know that Peterson's coming to fight. He's going to be going to war. So if he's going to be an underdog, he's an underdog probably with a shot. And at this price, he's probably going to be like 7,300, 7,400, somewhere in that range. That's a guy to fill out your roster, I think, at least.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm just a big Steve Ocho Peterson fan in general because the way the guy fights is just awesome. Good times, good times. The issue with him is that he's largely campaigned at 35 and 45 in his career. Better at 35, my opinion. Just he's going to have a little bit of size at 35. At 145, if he's taking on lesser level competition, he beats these guys. Gets on Dana White's Contender Series, actually loses a split decision, comes to the UFC regardless, and he fought Brendan Davis out of Alan Belcher's camp.
Yes.
Yeah, at Killaboo. And Davis is not particularly the biggest 45er, but he looked noticeably bigger than Peterson. Yeah. And Bessette's actually bigger than Davis. So I think that Peterson's going to have a big size disadvantage against Matt Bessette. Matt Bessette is a very well-rounded guy. He can strike. He's got decent jiu-jitsu. One thing that worries about me is his chin. A guy that I'm very familiar with, Canadian Lenny Wheeler, knocked him out in 39 seconds in a fight that took place in the States. So I'm not totally sold on his chin. Also, he fought in Dana White's Contender Series. Kurt Holloway wrecked him.
Yep.
And Kurt Holloway took a IV after the weigh-in, so the fight got changed to a no contest. And this guy gets a UFC fight after that, and then, again, he did not win any of the rounds against Barzola. He just did a little bit better than people would expect. So this is a fairly low-level fight, but Matt Bessette is well-rounded. He keeps his fight standing against Ocho Peterson. Ocho Peterson wants the fight to the ground. He is a decent grappler. He loves to find those submissions. He's got a nasty back take. He's a credible guy. But at 35, when you're the bigger guy, you can create those scrambles. You can own guys a little bit. You can take guys down a little bit. The punches don't hurt you as much. You can walk forward. Maybe you're not getting cut as easily. But at 45, it's just a different game. I'm actually surprised he stayed at 45 here. But the fact is, he did. And I just think Bessette's going to do enough to edge him out. So I'm going to take Matt Bessette.
And finally, Oscar Piechota taking on Gerald Meerschaert. Piechota -235 favorite. Meerschaert is +195. What you take?
I'm going to keep waiting to see Pichota's grappling, dude. I mean, the guy is legit on the ground. Beat Vinny Magalash. He's a Robert Drysdale black belt, competed at the ADCCs. And, you watch him fight, and he just ices people, with knockouts. It's like, oh, kind of surprising. 2 fights back, I think he fights Jonathan Wilson. And, didn't look great in that fight.
No, that was a bad performance.
No, it was a bad performance again for him, for sure. And everyone's kind of thinking, geez, Jonathan Wilson, I'm not saying it's cannon fodder, but they brought him in here to lose to you. You're so good on the ground. Take this guy down and beat him. But again, he's really tall and he's got a long kick, and that kick game actually serves him pretty good. And then his next fight, he goes in and 3 minutes into the first round, he hits Tim Williams with a head kick. And it's he nails Tim Williams, with just powerful shot. Tim Williams folds over. So it's Okay, well, apparently he's got some striking to add to his jiu-jitsu game.
And
so
even
now,
on like his Cage Warriors days, like he was landing strikes on people and just icing them.
Yeah, I watched a fight he was in Brazil, and yeah, same thing. It was like 39-second head kick knockout. It's just like, man, where is this guy? But he's very long. He loves throwing that head kick. The thing that I don't know about him is that I don't know for sure that he's got a great gas tank. Because you see glimpses of him fading, and you see glimpses of like, if you're going to throw these big old high kicks, like it takes it out of you. And because he's not a striker, he's not a lifelong striker, they're going to take it out of you. It's not like grappling anymore. Is he a Gilbert Burns? I fall in love with my striking. I don't know. He should beat Gerald Meerschaert. He's better on the ground than him. He's got a better, I don't know, he's got a better chin because he hasn't really been tested like Meerschaert has. Meerschaert's a very tough, durable guy. I would assume that Pichota is able to beat him at some point, whether it be in the second round, whether the fight does hit the ground, he's able to submit him. The thing with Meerschaert is he's got a great gas tank, and he's a guy that's very familiar with ground game. I don't think he's quite a black belt. I think he's a brown belt still, but all the same, I mean, he's not Pichota's level, but just stay out of danger. Get out of this. Remember, he had that first round armbar over Ryan James. Ryan James is a black belt. The guy's not bad on the ground. His striking's definitely a work in progress. He can't beat Thiago Santos, who's twice his size and a power puncher, but these other guys, he can chip away at them and get the victory. And I kind of see that that's probably more where this fight goes, is that he's able to chip away at Pichota. Pichota being 235, that's the thing that's scaring me away from it. If it was less than 2-1, I would think, hey, Pichota's the undefeated guy. He's on a roll. He's looking good. Maybe he's changed that conditioning up a little bit. But geez, that plus 195 for Meerschaert, very tempting dog money.
There we go. 22 fights broken down here. Maybe 1 or 2 fights are going to be added. You can reach out to Cody Saftic on Twitter at CJ Saftic to ask him about his picks for said fights. Remember for the UFC 226 card, give us your number one sleeper from under 7,800. So Khalil Rountree and down. Give us your guy from there in the comment section here on YouTube. We will give you a shout out on the next show if you are right in that comment.
DK name.
Give us your DK name. Why the DK name?
So they can be credited.
Oh, we're giving them bucks?
Yeah.
I told you that. DK Box.
He just wrote...
I wrote DK with dollar signs.
The
sign.
You never actually said that to me. Wow, I should have been selling... I've never been selling it as people getting money.
I said it earlier. I was like, you can get some DK Bucks. Paul, the S with the 2 lines means the money.
I didn't want to sell it as... I didn't hear him say that. I thought he was just looking for me to... Well, you can get bucks by picking your sleeper underneath $7,800. So Khalil Rountree and down on the UFC 226 card. Do that with your DK handle. We'll give you some bucks. I'm going to probably be tagging something to the front of this part of the show.
Also, it's a draw. Not everyone gets it.
No, it's a draw. Oh, no,
let's just have Pat Mayo on the show and he can give away the contest details.
He didn't tell me. He didn't tell me exclusively. Look, I wrote on this sheet. People listening, I just said, just encourage sleepers.
Hold on.
Which led me to believe that I didn't have bucks to give out. I didn't want to promise bucks. We've been in this situation before.
Hold this up of what I wrote you.
He did put this, which is
DK money.
DK with bucks on it. So, hey, DK bucks coming your way.
I'll tell you something. I'll give you the winning pick right now, but I don't want DK bucks. I want the bottle of Jägermeister.
You know what we're going to have to use as the Twitter clip is this, so that nobody gets confused about what to do. So give us your DK handle so we can credit you. It's a draw. Pick your sleeper under $7,800. Paul Felder does not count because he's a favorite. And, well... Hey, if you want to do Paul Felder as yours, you can do it. You can do it, but everyone's going to be picking Paul Felder, so you'd be a little bit more wise not to pick him. Obviously.
This show just went right off the rails.
Wait, well, we've been talking for like 2 hours here.
I'm sweating.
I lost it. Anyway, remember, this show was brought to you by Jägermeister. Give your beer a real shot this summer with a nice cold shot of Jägermeister. Thanks to Pat Mayo. Thanks to Chad Dow. I am Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.
Experience! Experience!